Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody. So this scrutiny meeting is being conducted live in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021 and the Council's arrangements for multi-location meetings. I would remind members that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. Can I request that you all switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you're not speaking to ensure there's no unnecessary background noise and to help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. Can I also remind members to ensure their chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on at that time. As well as being broadcast live, a recorded version of this remote meeting will be uploaded onto the Council website for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting, whilst translation of proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recorded may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Very much. Have we got any apologies for absence? No apologies, Chair. Thank you. So we'll go straight into the agenda items then, if that's okay. So first up, we've got obviously our service plan reviews. Sorry, I missed a point. Any declarations of interest? Okay. Yeah. So we'll go into the first service plan review, if that's okay. Yeah, no problem at all.
Quiet.
So in terms of sort of for experience, assume that members have read the report and have gone through it, so you don't need to run through the whole thing line by line. Maybe give us a quick overview of the salient points you want us to be aware of, and then members will chip in and ask questions then after, if that's okay.
Would you like to find your name things?
Actually,
Oh, right.
then so you have them today.
Oh yes, so you're doing it properly.
Ready?
Passing along for the board.
I'm not being there.
No, I'm afraid Mr. Jones doesn't have them.
I think they do.
Yes,
Good afternoon there, members. So obviously we're here to talk to you today about the Regeneration and Economic Development Service Plan, the end of the year report. So Regeneration and Economic Development is a relatively new service area, so it comprises essentially planning services and building control, and Andrew is the service manager for that. And then we've got Regeneration and Economic Development, cultural tourism and events, and also work and skills, which also includes the youth academy, which Matt looks after as the service manager. So in the last year, we've delivered a number of strategic projects, including a new 4-star hotel, Mr. Centre, the Charters Hotel, and also refurbishment of the Central Library Museum building, where we now host our centre and our customer services facility, as well as providing obviously the art gallery and the museum. We started work on the Transport Bridge project. If you've been past recently, you'll see the visitor centre which is taking shape. And we've also made good progress on delivering the new leisure and wellbeing centre and our new replacement local development plan. So all those are being progressed. And we've also progressed the shared prosperity funding, and Cabinet approved in May the local investment plan. I know it's slightly outside the end of the year report, but just for some context. And we've also been busy delivering the City of Newport business plans behind the scenes as well. We've organised a number of successful events over the last year, including the Newport Wales Marathon. We've got the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and also the return of the Food Festival, which was a big success. So in terms of the budget, you'll see from the report that our service area ended the year with a £12,000 underspend, which was really good news, and I think reflected the hard work that the service managers have put in terms of their budgets. And then in terms of risk, you'll see that service area risks have either stayed the same or reduced, and I think the reduction in the risk is reflective of the fact that some of those projects have actually started and being delivered now. So in terms of the red and amber performance measures that you'll see in the end of year report, the first red figure relates to tourism figures. So you'll see that the target is 4.67 million visitors. And to give you a little bit of context for that, those were the figures that we achieved in 2019, so that was pre-pandemic. Obviously, they also run from January to December, so it's not completely reflective of the end of year report, which runs from the financial year. But you'll see that in 2022, from January to December, we achieved 3.68 million visitors. So if you put that in context of recovering from the pandemic and seeing a return of visitors, it's not bad. So we were quite pleased to see how much the economy had recovered. Maybe not as much as the 4.67 in 2019, but nevertheless, we've got to factor in that we have been experiencing a cost of living crisis. We lost a lot of skilled staff from industries following Brexit. And obviously the refugee situation with Ukraine meant that a lot of hotel rooms were used for refugee accommodation. So there's a number of factors there which will affect the visitor economy, but nevertheless, I think what it is a very positive start. Hopefully we'll see next year when we sit before you, those increased improvement in figures. The second one is an amber for the young person's guarantee. So it's a little bit misleading. So I'd like to give you some context if that's okay, members. Just in the sense that the target was 200 people to be supported, and what we achieved was 98. But again, just for context, this is only a half-year figure because we didn't start delivering this until September. So for that 6-month period, we almost delivered 50%. So in a full year, you would hope and expect that to be achieving the target. So again, next year we hope to come back to you with that being green. And then the other one I'd like to draw to your attention is the planning appeals dismissed figure. The target we set ourselves is 77%. And again, for a little bit of context, the Welsh Government target is 66%. But we do in Newport aspire to make good quality decisions and also make right decisions. Now, a number of you are on planning committee and you know how hard we work to try and make sure that we make robust and defensible and good quality and the right decisions. We achieved 71.4%, so not totally without a gift. Planning decisions and inspectors can make their own decisions, but nevertheless, with a target of 66% for Welsh Government, us achieving 71.4% is still a really good outcome. Whether we should reduce that target 77%, I think is up for debate, but certainly we always try to aspire to make really good decisions, and sort of 100% would be lovely, but I don't think that's realistic. So that's what I really want to point out.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're open to members to ask any questions on regeneration and economic developments. Reynolds?
I think this will be a quick one, to be honest, because you've already actually alluded to this, but I just wondered whether maybe you could give a bit more detail on tourism figures. You've mentioned that the cost of living crisis and Brexit might have had an effect. Have you got any more sort of either detail about how that might have affected the figures? And have you got any actual figures on that, or is it more anecdotal?
I think obviously we engage with our businesses, and you see a number of business closures, and that's sort of largely the reasons why businesses are struggling to survive, because cost of living, less people have less money in their pocket to spend. So the commentary we've given is anecdotal, but I think it is the reason why we've seen a drop in those figures. I don't know, Matt, if you want to add any more to that.
Yeah, we linked with Steam data, so that's national indicator for tours and visits. So you can see that translated into a lower number of visits. And just to add to Tracy's point, total evidence, we are working with the hospitality sector as a sort of key sector of interest in the council in its economic development activities, and regeneration activities as well. Mentioned we refurbished the program Mercure in the city centre. A lot of areas have been budgeted to sort of help and sustain the refugees from Ukraine fled the conflict. So we see on the ground with some of the partners and they don't work with as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up a couple of points. We'll pick up first on the transport bridge. Just going back to the report, if you don't mind, Lucy. On page 13, we look at service area risks and transport bridge / business centre not delivered on time and on budget. got an inherent risk of 16, which is in red. But on page 14, then there's sort of where it links more to transport and bridge visitor sector. It looks a nice healthy green in terms of the progress. Can you just give us a bit of sort of background as to why we've got red and green, please?
Okay, no problem.
We're using the page numbers on the slide when we refer. No, right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, so on page 13, the service area risk, that's a general project risk. So when we embarked on the project, it was considered it was a high risk project because of listed victims. So if you see that in quarter 3 and quarter 4, that risk is reduced down to 8, which is amber. Yellow, amber. Not sure quite what the company is.
Yeah, that's the common video.
Right. So basically, that's reflected the fact that the project is started, so the risks of not starting and completing
Right.
are reduced. And then when we go into the actual service plan, the percentage completed is on the basis of how much the project's progressing. So in line with how we expected it to progress in terms of timescale and budget, we're green. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
yes,
with the progress then, and it's all going as you expect.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly challenging project. You know, it's a great one to start listed building. There's not many sleepless nights. But certainly, you know, if you go past, you can see work actually progressing and bringing the visitor centres out. Open. When's the visitor centre supposed to be?
Supposed to be November this year. There's a gap between the visitor centre and the big implementation, basically, because that's far more technical than the aspect of the project. Obviously, the river, there's college issues, the heritage status, the bridge, as Tracy said. Obviously, the construction market is impacted as well because the bridge is probably only made of steel.
Yeah.
Manage that. But again, we're trying to progress in as a section of the bridge now is encapsulated at a high level. So what contractors doing, they're blasting all the paint off, having a look at actually what condition the bridge underneath all the layers of paint from the 5 years, and they can let them know just try the encapsulation and move on. So just doing in the line again is really very challenging. So they were at height moving on in sections, gathering it, so yeah, so that's fine progressing as well, which is positive.
So when you say November 23, is that to finish the building or is that to actually open? Is it
No, just to finish the building, the bridge repairs will outlast the construction of the new centre.
Is that the visitor centre building? That's going to be finished in November.
Yeah, that's going to be finished in November. The activities we can then take into utilising the centre, so schools can come and live at the bridge and the heritage, with all of the targets with the heritage fund around that. We also got training around your volunteers to run the bridge when eventually we open to the public as well.
And you're confident that's going to open in November?
The business centre.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It just does look like just a lot of pillars of steel.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's a new build, a lot of interlays and then it goes on around to the back shop. There's no solid walls. It's largely constructed from the premise that when you come to the site and you build fancy going up, got steps. You can see the bridge and all this sort of finished glory from sort of ground up in the business and having the better areas. But yeah, we've approved all the greatest specifications recently actually, so contract was placed orders for those. So,
Good. Councillor Clemmy?
Thank you, Chair. Tracy, thank you for your reports. My question is about the former IAC building in Mill Street. Have you got an update on this? Because it says exploring additional funding options.
Yeah. So obviously with all our projects, we take an active interest and engagement with the developers. So we know that again with the challenges that people are facing in terms of construction costs, as we sort of exited the pandemic, and we are aware that the cost of completing the building is exceeded obviously what it was when we started the project pre-COVID. And so they are looking at ways in which they can look at financing the sort of the final internal fit out, if you like, so we can get people in there. So they are still exploring that. Last time we spoke to them, there wasn't anything confirmed, but we know they are looking into that funding side.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
And Councillor Thomas?
Yes, thank you. Tracy, I noticed that you've used examples there. I mean, clearly, I'm very pleased to see the completion of the hotel in the middle, which is obviously my ward, and I'm really pleased about that. I'm pleased that it sounds as if it's broadly positive news about the building on Mill Street. But as the council are mentioning these reports, I would like to talk about, or you perhaps could update us a bit, if you can, on things which have already been completed, and I'm thinking of Debenhams building. I know that, we have been informed that the council work closely with the owners who are now that Canadian can have us go. We have us at the moment, they sold it again. They sold it again. Well, there's a surprise which I was up to date with, right? I mean, where are we with that? We've seen that you've opened the vaccination centre. I mean, does that class as somebody having found a constructive use for it, and it better than it, just sitting there empty? I mean, what are we looking at? Have we got a next stage? Because I'm quite surprised that vaccination centre is still there. It seems to, that's the sort of thing that's been seen as temporary measures.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
So where are we going with that one?
Yeah, so
and this is with the full recognition that a lot of these things are beyond us as a council. This is privately owned and it's a commercial operation.
Absolutely spot on there. But myself and Matt do meet monthly with the owners of Friars Wharf to understand where we are with the businesses and what opportunities are sort of coming over the hill. Every meeting we have, we talk about the Debenhams. They have had interest in it from leisure operators and other retailers for part of the building. Difficulty is nobody's coming to the table with any terms that commercially work for them for such a big space. So I think we all acknowledge it's a difficult space to use, and we would love another department store to come back in there. That would be fantastic. But the reality is it's an incredibly big space, and if they can't let it as one complete unit, then they are open to looking at sort of maybe subdivision at some point. But I still think that they're keen to try and find that a operator for the whole space. The vaccination centre very much is temporary. They're on a rolling contract now. So as long as the demand is there, then they'll operate from there. But yeah, we do discuss that regularly with them, and we try and link them up with prospective occupants. But it's just a matter of having managed to get the terms to work with anybody else.
Right. I mean, I'm concerned obviously about that the council has have been called upon for various subsidies or financial support for that, and I don't want us to find ourselves in any position where we have to carry on with that for longer than necessary. Something like the vaccination centre is so clearly not a progressive use of that building. We need something there which is going to add to the attractiveness of the city, and I hope very few of those numbers that are reflected in the visitor numbers would be people actually only visiting the city to go there, for example.
If they are, I hope they're spending a couple of bob in the shops as well. We'll take that.
Well, we hope so. Just one other thing here: the full planning housing units granted planning permission. We have now. We're going to have presumably some performance indicators associated with that. Are we going forward?
So that's a new performance target. So there's page 21 of your agenda. So yes, it's when we formed the new RED service area, it's like, well, what is it we're trying to achieve as a service area? One of those was reflective of the fact that we, in everything we do with planning, we're trying to get more affordable housing units and deliver those housing units to people who need them. So it was felt that actually recording and reflecting how many affordable units are delivered by planning permission, because I thought that
it's very important target.
So we're using obviously this year as a base year, so that's when there's the target, and then we can benchmark then going forward on the basis of what we've achieved.
But it's 94 units for last year. No, actually now.
Yes,
that's last year. The year has finished. Right. Do we have an indicator of what we might be looking at going forward?
I think if we're going to be setting targets, be realistic to use what we've actually achieved last year and use that as sort of the baseline. But obviously, as it says in the commentary, what we've got to remember is that you might see in the planning decisions in a committee more affordable units coming forward. But what we haven't done is double counted them, because we quite easily include and reserve matter numbers. But we're keeping it a very pure figure to say these are new units. So it does get confusing, but Andrew does a really good job of working out how many we've already counted and how many we're going to count.
Can I just pick up on that one? Because I just wonder whether it would be useful to see that figure as a percentage of your number. So, you know, 94 units, great, but how many did we give permission for overall? So, you know, was that only 5% or 10% or 20 or 34? But it would be really useful to see that as a percentage.
I would then, caution I will give is that those raw figures, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, are going to include some that we've already counted. So when we write about outline position, we write the number of whatever units in that. Then when we run the matters,
we've got another indicator in the annual monitoring review for the LDP talking about how many dwellings were delivered last year. So rather than granting permission, how many were actually built. And of that, we get the figures in terms of how many affordable units were built out of the total. So it's easier to do that way rather than just looking at it in terms of the number approved. We can do it.
Yeah, no, I just think it's a key measure thing, particularly in terms of the LDP. How many sort of are we getting people, are we getting screwed by developers on viability and only delivering a small amount, or are we actually getting the full quota that we expect to get from the LDP?
Yeah, understand the cost sector.
It is, yeah.
It's 94 out of 200, 94 out of 8,000 is
Absolutely, yeah. No. So it's just at that point really, which is sort of keep it, particularly as you alluded to, construction costs are really difficult at the moment. So it's easy for developers to or much easier to make a viability argument in terms of those sort of units and the ones with populations or rest. So yeah.
And just stop that. Do we have any sort of, do we have reports of how much the council are bringing in terms of 106 contributions?
We do, yes.
Sorry, I didn't register whether I've seen that in this report.
It's not in this report,
Right.
We can get you those.
Right. I think that would be quite good to see, and how it compared with previous years, perhaps. Okay, thank you.
Do you want to come back in?
Several volumes.
Yeah, let's get it.
Thank you, Chair. Tracy, on page 20, we're looking at gradually money investment, and you've got some good figures with the grant of to 17 businesses and 52 new jobs created. And it's good that we're actually getting some more jobs into the city as a whole. Where we come wrong is you've got 35,000 awarded, but it's a potential pot of 60,000 for grants. So how can we as a city get this message out to businesses that want to grow and increase that there is funding available? Because if 35,000 went down, I mean, we created 52 jobs. If we can get 60,000 now, there's a chance of creating a whole lot more jobs. So how can we sort of spread that message a bit clearer and a bit further?
I think there's probably two parts to that. So why only 35,000 out of 60,000 location? That's skewed, for want of a better word. I'll probably let Matt explain this. He's better than sure.
One of the five things you've done is fixed property costs when you're expanding businesses. We demonstrated it's start for the first time because they've got a gap in terms of the unit they want to occupy, or if they want to move to a big premises, then we can support them with rent, service charge, and building to events. We have just back and tip at the point they applied to us back in tip the next financial year. We have to create a summer reserve. We spend up 12 months. So
Staged payments, basically. So we allocate to 60k, but
we can use to pay the people who had a grant award in the previous financial year because they 12 months rent and the period of installment rent, for example, was started February in the previous financial year, and they're still receiving that grant for award in the following year. 60k is deducted part of the 50k to fund grants awards in the previous financial year because they take over.
Yeah, it's complicated, but essentially we allocated the full amount, but we just didn't get full spend because of the stage payment.
Yeah, but just get the full spend. It was just, some of these grants awarded at late stage in the financial year, we're still being paid in the following year.
So in essence, the full 60,000 wasn't. In order to spread that message that we have given out, because it doesn't look like it's a lot, 35, but the context behind it, then yeah, that makes a lot more sense then. Yeah, if we've got successes, let's tell people. It's
That's a good point, yeah.
Thanks. Councillor Horton?
Thanks, Chair. My question was about the review and the update of the destination management plan. Surely it would see it to me anyway. It seems quite logical that the destination management plan underpins everything else. If we're trying to bring people to the city, then surely we should be that piece should be quite high up on the needs to get completed. I'm just wondering what's being done to accelerate, if anything is being done to accelerate that part of the strategy.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the question. I mean, I totally agree how important the destination management plan is. I think in the commentary, what we've said is that it forms part of a number of strategies that we're developing, and they all need to speak to each other. So obviously, we're aware we start with the corporate plan, and service plans reflect the corporate plan. But what we're also doing is developing a new placemaking plan. So that's a replacement to the city centre master plan. We're also looking at a cultural strategy, and we're also progressing delivering a new local development plan. So all those documents, all those strategies need to interlink and inform each other, and we're all at the very much those sort of stage of pulling together the principles and developing it at the same time. So that's why there's been a delay in not sort of, well, the LDP takes 3.5 years, so that's already starting on the path of that. But with the others, what we're trying to do is make sure they're all speaking to each other, reflecting, complementing each other. So that's why the 3 strategies are shown as almost not commenced, but there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes for all those 3 strategies.
Could we have some visibility of what's being done then, please?
Do you have some visibility on what's being done?
Oh, right. So in terms of the cultural strategy, for example, we are looking to commission some support to deliver that. Placemaking plan.
Sorry, do you say you're looking, or you're actively undertaking?
Well, the scope for the tenders being drawn up now, so we should have that done in the next 2 weeks. The placemaking plan, we're just waiting for Welsh Government to sign off for the scope of that.
Yeah, the scope of the content of the plan has to be endorsed by the Welsh Government with the placemaking plan. But it's similar, it's a little bit more advanced in the cultural strategy, but they are all in that sort of commissioning phase in market to get some help to look at sort of the rugby strategies and gauge your stakeholders, etc.
So probably the placemaking plan is probably the least advanced of those 3, but the next task is to get that feasibility work done as well, so that they're all progressing at the same time and complementing each other.
Okay, comes on. Yeah,
I suppose what I wanted to say is these service plans will come now over the scrutiny committee over this year, so that'll be one of the things you'll have a chance to pick up when where the progress is on that, and you should see that progressing on, and then you can interrogate where that's got to in the priorities.
In that case, carrying on from what you just said there, then can we have some of those strategies specifically brought to the scrutiny meetings then, please?
Come to the.
My only
discuss the forward work programme. So at the end, we'll pick up the forward work programme, and if that's something we want to look at as a committee, we can certainly sort of think about that when we sort of meet. So we can pick that up afterwards if you like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just as you said, as the officer said, that these are underpinning everything else. So it's obviously quite important that we get this right and get it right quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, let's pick it up at the end when we talk about the forward work programme, and then see what other committee members want to sort of bring forward. That's right. Yeah, Councillor.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tracy. My question is around launching strategy for the storage and display of the medieval ship I believe they've got an open day next week. And it does say feasibility work is being commenced. Have we got an update on that?
Yeah, so another one of the similar question goes, normally these studies are showing technical and be quite sort of extensive and expensive. So when you use the shared prospect and for some boards and specific feasibility work, again, let's say a commissioning phase where we look to provide some support advice, but what sites could potentially be available, how's the shape and what the requirements for that facility are. It's not just a case of finding a site, it's got to be somewhere where we can achieve, the environmental control, for example, so the shape, but either it's something that people kind of deliver out with.
Still is specialised water or something?
I believe in, preserving,
Especially treated perhaps like
Yeah.
dry. Just waiting for local.
And again, in itself, that's allowed us to move on thinking right now, where we're going to potentially out of so much focus we've been on preserving it.
Will the process explore the possibility of presumably we're talking about quite a specialist site or a site with a lot of features to meet all the demands. So we're presumably we're not limiting our search to council and stuff. We were talking about this earlier. It would be really handy to know exactly what the council owned. Precisely for this sort of
treating the case like
exploration.
Yeah, it comes under the other service areas. So we'll pick it up then. That's okay. I wanted to pick up on a similar point because I was going to ask about the shared prosperity fund and the bids, obviously, that weren't successful. I didn't see nothing in here in terms of, because there'll be another round of bids from there later in this year as well. And is there plans to sort of put something in and sort of commit to try and get some more money in for those sort of projects, really?
So there's two strands. The shared prosperity fund is one element of levelling up funding.
Yeah.
The bids that you're talking about, the actual what we call levelling up round 2.
Yeah.
And we're expecting the launch of round 3. You don't know. There's lots of uncertainty, lots of unknowns about that, so we don't know when that's going to be, and we don't know what the focus of that's going to, or what focus is going to be, whether it's going to be limited to a certain type of project, a certain amount of money. So on this, we're trying to wrestle with the unknown at the moment. So we are going through a process of understanding what's possible, what opportunities we've got, and then when the criteria comes out, we'll see what fits.
Yeah.
What we can actually bid for, but until you know the detail, it's
Of course,
it's very difficult to know what it is we could possibly go for. And it may not be opening well. We just don't know. We're making lots of assumptions.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Okay. I'm sorry, Steve.
Tracy, if you can just pick up on page 29.4, looking at the work that's been done to bring back vacant properties. 2 questions. Are these commercial or residential properties? But also you've obviously got some successes there, and you've employed a new senior enforcement officer to post specifically to do this. First, have you got any targets now going forward you can share with us, or will you be putting targets in place? Because if you must, with respect, put that money in place to do this, and we've only got 2. I'm expecting more out of this person as the years go on. So what are the metrics behind that?
So there is a mix of residential and commercial, but I would say it's heavily weighted on the commercial, but where we can work with residential properties, we do. There is almost like a top 10 priority list that's been developed. Forms the Welsh Government Action Plan, I think that's what it's called, isn't it? And we have to submit that to Welsh Government every year. So we know the properties that we're targeting. So certainly that's going to be the focus of that new enforcement officer is to make progress, and significant progress on those properties. And we've already seen some of the benefits of the work that he's been doing in terms of number of notices served. From the last planning committee, there was a request for a committee to authorise the serving of a list of building enforcement notice. So we're already seeing sort of the benefits of having somebody whose time is dedicated to the rest of that.
This isn't it, you get the benefits, you're seeing the soft benefits, and then we see just that. But beyond that, getting those buildings back in use is something that inevitably is going to take a little bit of time. So now it's switched on. Yeah, it's not like this. Trick is going to give us a top 10 countdown.
Probably guess what I'm about.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Councillor Rolls?
Thank you, Chair. Tracy, I was going to go back to page 26 very quickly, so objective 3. As you knew, that was something that's very close to my heart, and that's making the city into a living wage city. I can see that obviously one of the actions is to bring together a group of prominent Newport employers and to form that living wage action group. I'm just wondering what the progress is on that at the moment, because obviously with the cost of living crisis, I think that's becoming ever more urgent to make sure that the majority, if not all, of Newport's residents are earning at least a living wage.
Yeah, I think you're quite right to pick up on that. I mean, the progress has been less than what we would have liked. I think in sort of some of our earlier answers, you can see the level of work that we've got on in terms of commissioning, cultural structure, placemaking plan, those sorts of things. So it's just about trying to get some resources to start in those. So once we've got some of these other projects sort of on their way, the focus will be on looking at things like the living wage city commitment, and obviously we'll do that in partnership with Quantity and People Policy and Transformation colleagues as well.
Are there any employers like in the pipeline at the moment, or are the discussions going on with employers about becoming part of this action group?
Sort of very high level, we talk to employers and investors about what's ambition to be a living wage city. But I think the commitment and project that would follow from this would be sort of very much an action group that says, right, who's gonna commit, who's gonna actually sign their name on the dotted line for this. So
that's not thinking when you say it's about commitment.
Absolutely, and this it's about getting those ambassadors to say this is the right thing to do, this is what we need to do, and getting everybody else to try and follow through.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Councillor Rees?
Sorry, just read the last one. Can you just clarify for me, please, on page 25.6, we talk about the place websites. So you want to attract new people in to the city, to promoting and supporting the city, etc. Point 6, you develop a place marketing plan and to focus on the use of the place website and social media. Yeah, on page 32, then we start to understand that the number of hits on the place website, there's no data because the development of the place website is currently restricted. So is the place website up and running? Can people use that? It's just obviously it just seems to be conflicting what you're actually reporting here.
Apologies for confusion. Yes, the place website is there. It's citynewport.wales.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
And it's got a best visit meet section on there. It's a really impressive website. It's what we use to try and promote Newport's a place, because you can imagine the two websites in terms of the council's website in terms of the functions and the facilities and the services run by the council very much different. Now we're trying to market Newport as a place, so they're complementary. Yeah.
But can you read the web address from the City of Newport? Wales.
So to Wales.
We see lots of links on there to some road regeneration aspects of the service. So, but what we've struggled with is being able to access some of the back office data to be able to it's got the latest copy of the investment prospectus on. There's a new section which we update, and we do point people in who are coding people to that website.
You share the link to members after the meeting. Be good for members to know it's there.
So what are the restrictions then? Is it restriction due to the issues?
I think it's definitely going to get rid of it. It sounds like it's restrictions, so it's not accessible.
Yes, yeah.
It is definitely accessible because I just did it. I think it's a restriction getting the data. So
Just the data.
I think that's from the way, but it's confusing the way it's written. So I think.
Any other questions from anybody else?
Can I ask Tracy if there's an update on the new letter settlement?
So I think, we've got the update in there, so we're working really hard now at the moment into refining the design. I only last week, Mark to myself, a meeting talking about plug sockets and also pretty interesting stuff. Switches and things like that. Yeah, so we're in stage 3 with that. All progressing well. It's a big project to deliver, but we're hoping to be going out to tender at the end of the year and on site next year. That's the same thing that we're working to, but it's very much in the detail now and trying to make sure that it's as energy efficient as possible, and it's also commercially viable, my word, for the operator, because what we don't want to do is build something that's far too big and they've got a lot of wasted space. So we're trying to make sure we get the sweet spot of making sure that it maximises the use and delivers what our residents need in terms of the offer.
You mentioned the plug sockets. Have you got the sockets to charge your phones that should be English letters on? Because
They should be all over it, shouldn't we?
that's the new thing these days. When you have a new plug socket, you have the charging.
Generally plug is a cardio equipment, do it council and do quite clever stuff, try and promo on the bike and then you can set it to get training.
Well, even not.
It's probably more than using electricity. Yeah.
Maybe they'll install.
Completely agree. Someone will pay for itself.
They're charging qualified one and that's those bikes that charge the 20. So we're looking at.
But we've mentioned the demolitions has begun, started on that side, which is a key component. So obviously this new facility has been part funded by the council, but part funded by government. Demolitions are part of that because linked to the college when it's a big swap round. It's not just a leisure facility. There's a lot of complex things in the there, isn't there?
Demolition should be finished in September as well.
All right, okay, so that will take a spurt on at the end then. And they just seem to have got on with that, I have to say. You just hit an upload of my next moved.
Yeah, there is a permit in.
See 4 workmen on the roof of it the other day when I went.
When they take in a permit.
Yeah.
Don't tell the economists if they were.
They haven't got any safety fires on them or anything,
You flew into the council chamber here, I think.
I was just going to ask the timescale. Is it being readjusted or?
Well, yes, I mean, I think what we're working toward now is we're hopefully going to be on site, at least doing some enabling works and then start construction in the new year. So in January, February time.
Have we got a finish date or?
About 18 months. That's what we're being told, 18 months construction period. Yeah, from commencement construction. So if we start the enabling, if that takes a couple of weeks, then it'll be from starting the construction phase. So yeah, it's up like hopefully.
Yeah.
Then you could all be in there using the fun pool and charging your phones on the bike.
Can I wonder if I missed a bit.
Councillor Morgan's waiting.
Oh, sorry, go on then.
That's right. Councillor Morgan, did you want to come in?
Yeah, it's on a different topic, unless you finished talking about what you were just talking about.
Do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, just let me clarify. So the demolition part of the leisure centre is due to be finished in November.
September.
September, and that includes taking all the rubble away. But what's the problem there? What have we got a limited number of construction workers or something to go on and actually start on the new?
No, there's separate tenders, however, they're interlinked because
we've got 4 lots of money going in.
Yeah, that's right. So some of the money is the saving on operating a more efficient centre. The old centre is very inefficient. So just as an example, we're spending nearly 2/3 of a million just on energy for that old centre, which is staggering if you think about it. And some of it is from Welsh Government grant, which is around pulling in the college into the city centre as well. So that's a big important part. So the demolition triggers some of the grants. There's a whole lot of overlapping. It's not necessarily the same construction work because probably the different ones. You would know. But there
is that skill knocking things down. Maybe it's best that they follow projects. But
there is a bit of a shortage in construction. It is challenging, and that's part of slow down a lot of projects. But it's not specific unless they don't even friend. But if it's all done in November, you'll be able to go and see a nicely demolished site and off for a trip to Transport Bridge Centre, won't you? But
It comes on a bridge.
it can't on the bridge.
right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holden, do you want to come back in now, sorry?
Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, my question is about page 25, Reckon 6 as well. The sort of the commentary work continues to benchmark peer locations as part of development of the revised plan. Who are the peer locations that you're using, please?
We use in places like Coventry. Yeah, so more the key cities rather than the core cities, because there's no point comparing ourselves to the likes of Birmingham or Manchester, but we're trying to use cities, areas that are similar in terms of demographic and other indicators. So in places like Coventry, we're very interested in what they're doing and how they're marketing their destinations.
Okay, so which other places, please? What are the list of places that you're using?
I might have to come back to you on that. I know we've talked about Coventry, but we'll speak to the place marketing manager and confirm that. That's okay, Joe.
Yeah, these are up to date. That's great. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Holden.
Sorry. So could you tell us what have you found so far? So what are the highlights that you've picked up so far?
It's the place map.
Yes.
Place map. Just similar challenges across various areas, I guess, councillors, the main sort of consistency, I think, is lots of places to experience the same challenges in Newport. I don't want to, that's not the playground challenge in Newport Sport. In terms of backing people in as a place, but when you take these sort of place strategies and place marketing strategies, you take Newport out of the title, you could insert, if they following out the title, so you could insert Newport or Gloucester or anyone in a number of those key cities in, and there's a similar story. So just that sort of consistent feedback, we're not alone in the challenges we face. So we're sort of recovering and we're looking at what the areas are doing.
Just say on that as well, Councillor, this will form part of the ongoing plan, so we'll get a 6-monthly review when we do the reviews in the autumn. So it'll be useful, I guess, for the team to take a note back to give us a sort of an update on those, if that's okay, Tracy. And that sort of we can pick that up in that sort of 6-monthly review then, if that's okay.
It's just I thought it's interesting that both the places that you listed I go to quite regularly, so I've got family there. So I wouldn't necessarily say that some of the challenges that we face, they face. Just a point.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, and we can pick it up in the review. That's okay.
On that point there, I mean, we've been very specifically told that we are looking at the development of the city, thinking of the really high tech end, specialist end of IT. That's been identified as a niche, hasn't it, that we want to develop the city towards. Now, that actually will demand a strategy for looking to bring that type of person with those skills into the city. We can't entirely rely on the fact of, our local university turning out the right type of people. We've got a destination in mind, haven't we, where we want the city to end up. So is that sort of thing going to be built into that strategy, or can you make a point of updating us on how we're moving towards that tech city aim?
So I think the city is more than that though. So the reason we mentioned Coventry is because they were a city of culture, and obviously we're very proud of our sort of culture and heritage in Newport, and from a visitor perspective, and that's the sort of benchmark that we should be looking at. That's why we mentioned Coventry, but we are also reflective, I should say, in terms of the sort of the compound semiconductors and the data with the office presence. So
I mean, I think we probably more like see ourselves in line with, say, Swindon or somewhere down there. Who've got that, who've actually gone into that niche. Some time ago, obviously.
I wouldn't want us to forget our cultural and its sort of historic sort of all the really good things that we've got to celebrate and attract people.
And that will generate some income and wealth and expansion for the city. But actually, I'm a believer, in it's the jobs that we can offer and the people who we can attract here, which will be the real wealth and the driver moving forward. We've actually got quite a high unemployment rate here, higher than the rest of Wales at the moment. Getting on for at least a third higher. And, I'm thinking of that, and that culture side of it won't help us make ourselves more marketable in terms of, actually going back to the living wage city. To create the driver for us a living wage sign-up, we need a low unemployment rate, don't we?
I suppose I hear what you say. I probably slightly disagree, because I think that the offer for Newport is wider than just a job. It's a place to live, and it's a good quality place to live. So we've got lots to offer. We've got the rural urban sort of split. We've got really good connectivity, but we also keep going on about culture and heritage. But we've got a really good visitor offer as well. So I think that there's a reason why people should.
We will have when we've got all these projects. And the ship centre as well.
Tredika House, Steve's Park, we've got amazing living levels, amazing opportunities. The facilities are our doorstep, and it's about making sure that it's not just about creating those jobs, it's about telling people why Newport is a good place to live, work and learn. So it's all of those components, and I think that's what we're trying to deliver in terms of marketing Newport as a place. Jobs are really, really important, and that's what's going to help us deliver economic growth. But in terms of us, we feel it is much bigger than just those jobs, and we're trying to hit the sweet spot of trying to bring all those things together,
including employers.
Going back to the point you raised the council with the tech digital, just these things stuff that are surprised by, emphasise sort of crossing over with cultural sector, particularly things like film and broadcast and set creation, the growing number of freelancers we're sort of working with the data within the city. That is a growth industry as well. It's not just culture as a getting this experience that's really accessible to all. It is really, as Tracy said, really strong economic sort of argument for supporting culture and heritage, and the spin-off sort of industries that come with it as well. But more on that point, it's very hard these days to see what's a creative business and what's a cultural entity, if you like. Real friends here is perhaps an example of that stuff goes on this.
Councillor Holden, did you want to come back in on the same point?
I did, yeah. We've spoken a number of times, and it's been mentioned a number of times about Newport becoming a tech city, and we have spoken about this at length in previous meetings, in different forums, in groups. But we're missing the sort of the pillars which hold up any sort of society. We're not offering as a city, and I don't think very many places do, the education for the jobs which underpin everything. So there's no hospitality training done anywhere, really. It's a real poor offering. Now, this is something which we could capitalise on, and I'll give you an example, a real quick example. Most chefs fall into the role. They start off, they're usually from a disadvantaged background. They're usually with a little or no education. They start off as a pot wash. They then get a feel for helping out with the cooking. They then move on to training with somebody that's never been trained before within the kitchen environment. There is very little. And Newport used to offer this as a course back when Nash was a little bit more full. These are the sorts. I think these are the sorts of opportunities that we should be able to present our youngsters, and that will bring a more vibrant city centre. If we can offer somewhere for people to go in an evening, more than we do now, more independence. The only way you're going to get independence is we've got people who are qualified and trained to deliver the products that people want and the services that they want. We will see more people come in, and we will see an increased local economy. Whether or not this is the right forum for that, we've been mentioned a lot about tech, but I think we need to sort of wind it back a little bit and start to look at some of the some of the activities which will entice people to come to the city. If we've got offerings of great restaurants, which at the moment we don't have that many, people will come to use those facilities. And if there's something that is lacking industry-wide, and it would be really, really good if we could put a pin in the table and said, we're going to go after this, we're going to have a bite of this cherry, and it will generate business interest within the city, and it will bring people to the city. Just a topic before I think about.
Thanks. Talking about the high tech and just talking now about the hospitality industry. I know from personally, because the construction industry skills are really lacking, no apprenticeships and things like that. Welsh government is trying to bring in low carbon housing, lower footprint. What are we doing to the colleges? I know, well, the many of the construction industry, the dry lines and all, they've got a great side Newport, they've got to go to other colleges. So what are we doing to liaise with Newport College campuses to improve the skills of the construction industry and bring on new apprenticeships?
It's probably a couple of different sections to sort of my answer to that. So we've obviously got a working skills team of people who need to get back into the workplace, and certainly in terms of the youth academy, they're really good work they're doing with 16 to 19 year olds. They find a pathway into construction by giving them work experience and taking them on that journey. So they're doing some fantastic work there. We're also part of the Capital Region, part of the Regional Skills Partnership. And they've got sector leads in there, one of them being construction, where they have industry reps on the board. Welsh Government are part of that board, and we're part of that board, and so are the people in the region. So we are having those conversations about what the skill shortages are, not just in construction, but wider, and there are also academic representatives there as well. So what they're trying to do is sort of match up the skills and qualifications offering things like construction to meet the demand for sort of the wider workforce. That's all in the backdrop of us having an aspiration to run what we call the National Technology Institute. Now, it sounds a very grand title, but effectively, the aspiration is that it does deliver sort of meets the demand for employers. So whatever employers need, they would be able to sort of find and source skills, qualifications and training through this Technology Institute. We are trying to develop that and get that around. We did seek having that funded around 2, but we were unsuccessful with that. So it's back to the drawing board and how we can try and deliver that. And it may be we have to look at sort of some form of sort of soft launch of that. But certainly we know we're having those discussions about how we deliver that, because we understand and appreciate that, no point academics or Welsh Government or any of us trying to say we think this is what employers need. The employers need to tell us, and then we need to try and match those to deliver that sort of relevant training. But there are lots of people out there working really hard to try and make sure that people get pathways for young people, or people that need to retrain, because electric vehicles and they're doing the move to sort of carbon net zero all going to have an impact on people who are trained mechanics or plumbers that need to start being able to work on different types of vehicles and all of different and that sort of thing. So so there's lots of people focused on that. We are working together with that.
Could I just make a general question? Probably questions have run on to the sort of annual plans as opposed to the end of service review plans. So we can just try and sort of focus them, because we'll have opportunities. We've probably asked a load of questions that we should have asked in the autumn, I think, in the services. So sorry about that. But Chris, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, so we picking up Tracy already said about the working skills group. Can we put the link or the contact details for this, so employers to be able to get in touch with the working skills group, take a look at apprenticeship? Maybe sort of potentially appointments.
Any other questions from anyone? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was delayed a bit there. what is the time, from what you just said then about the skills, what's your timeline that you're looking at to get that implemented, please?
For the National Technology Institute, or more generally?
Yeah, before businesses can start making good use of it.
Well, we're in sort of the feasibility stage again. Obviously, we developed a concept which we put forward for Level Up funding for round 2. You know, we've had to go back to the drawing board now because we were unsuccessful in securing that funding. So we're looking at how we can almost do a soft launch of that to test the market, to prove the concept, to then obviously look for the funding for a project that's had proof of concept.
Okay, so can I ask what businesses you contacted then, please?
We were mainly talking to the semiconductor.
With the National Technology Institute, we had over 60 there to support.
For the original concept,
The
yeah,
original
but
concept,
in terms of
yes,
soft
yeah.
launch, you know, we've been talking a lot with the semiconductor cluster and the catapult.
Oh, it broke up a bit then. It went a bit Robbie the robot.
So Matt was saying that when we submitted the bid for the Level Up funding, we had over 60 letters of support from various different industries. But because we're looking at how we can develop a soft launch, we've been looking at you know, one sector in particular, and we've been more recently speaking to the semiconductor cluster to see how we could support their growing sort of needs and expansion plans. Because we know the likes of, for example, KLA were building their new headquarters down at Imperial Park. They've got, you know, huge, really impressive expansion plans, you know, which we know about when we develop a plan and application. So it's about how we can support them in delivering that. Be a really good success story for Newport.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch all of that. I'll watch it back on later. Sorry, you kept dropping in and dropping out.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Horton. Anybody can find everything.
What's that?
Thanks.
Yeah, by all means, yeah, the same sort of thing about as last time, really, on the same point of the campaign. I'm just going to ask questions, but don't, nobody's going to try, well, I never which one.
Thank you very much. So we're on page 35 of the packet you're reading online.
Thank you. And also, I'm sure it's just probably say, okay. Councillor Brutuni, did you want to give an introduction as well? I think this is your service here.
No, I'm happy just to listen and get your feedback. It's more about, less about you listening to me and more about me listening to you.
No problem. Thank you. Sorry, Tracy.
Thank you. So Tracy McKinnon, got with me by the management team, which is Sean Howell, Kevin Howells, Janice Dent and Mark Blizzard. There's a number of us, we're quite a complex service area. We're also new this year, so we are human resources, I have to write this down, health and safety, assets, that's buildings on land, we're council policies, things like corporate planning, we're partnerships, we're PR and communications, we're digital, we're relationships with SRS and laws, we're complaints, we're intelligence and data, and we're also transformation and change. So that's also my introduction. So quite a big service area, and we support obviously every else we have. So a few key things I just pick on. As you'll see on the first few pages, we have two of the corporate risks for the council, which is the property estate. You know, we've got issues with the property estate and insufficient maintenance funding to support that and work around that, and also information and cyber security. I'd also note, as you will all certainly have, that we overspent last year. This was to do with, and it's reported elsewhere, obviously also, this was to do with largely building maintenance and property costs. So actually we overspent by more than that, and then we made the money back in the rest of the service to reduce that overall overspend, but there were permissions for that, things like boilers failing and emergency resets. So they were really going to overspend. If I just run through the main issues, I guess, is what you're asking for this year. So a huge range of programmes and projects. You'll notice within the reds, if I focus on those, the council had a website project last year, and for a range of reasons, technical, skills attrition, people leaving, various failures, that project was closed. So we now have a new programme this year to develop the website using new technology, new skills. So we're much more hopeful about that. We have a delay on the people plan, which is kind of amber for last year, because that underpins the corporate plan, and we were working towards working with staff on developing that. So we've recently had our staff conference to be forward. And then within the performance section at the end, I just draw your attention to, well, I'm sure you want to ask about it. Sickness days exceeds what it has been previously, and also our target. We're coming out of COVID. We know that that's a pattern elsewhere. We've yet to see the All Wales figures, and we need to unpick what that means, how we address that going forward, or what our actions are. Management check-ins came up last year, and I'm sure will come up again. So again, below target, but massive improvement from last year, and improvement again in the first quarter of this year. So we're now over 50% on recording those check-ins. The Welsh target is red, and we need to apologise to the committee for that, because the 20% target should just not be there. Only 7.5% of the population can speak that level of Welsh, and we need to move to be better than that. We're not going to get to 20% realistically at this time, so we'll be amending the target, but for transparency, we left as is. Public service ombudsman intervention, that is where we're trying to be more transparent about complaints. So this is where complaints are referred to the ombudsman and are then upheld, or the ombudsman intervenes. So that's not as good as the target, therefore red, but actually the number is only 8. So it's not a huge miss in numbers, but it is a miss in terms of the target. And they're the main issues I wanted to draw your attention to. What I would say is we've tried to be ambitious with our targets throughout, and we're not all green. We're trying to be ambitious in over a wide cross section. And I'll probably pause there and take questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Councillor Thomas?
Yeah. On page 46, point 6, because I have spent the morning with the 50+ forum, previously known as the Older People's Forum for Newport. So this comes up very often, and this is about, number 6 is about development of digital skills of citizens. Citizens are mentioned first before employees and members. And this is repeatedly comes up, that many of our older population, are very upset by the feeling which they have, which they're being forced to go down a digital road and actually excluded by that. So, how are we going to, what can we tell older people which is going to be constructive and understanding of their reluctance or their inability to connect to things digitally and then go down this route, the brave new world that the rest of us are, hopefully on the path for. This is a real point of anxiety for many people, many older people, and of course we need to include in that even families as well who can't afford the high-tech gadgets, who can't afford the Wi-Fi connections, have other priorities in their life rather than that.
Thanks. I guess the first thing I would say is what that action reflects is we developed our digital strategy that was adopted this year. We're one of the few places in the area that have achieved that. And in that strategy, it makes that a priority. It makes digital skills for our population with many challenges, access to technology, necessarily one who's age, but a mix of people who are unable to access technology or can't get to do it.
This is older people who would reflect this, so I don't think they'd mind you saying old. It's recognising their position.
So
Recognition.
the first thing is that we have a strategy that we've developed and committed to address that, and this is kind of what that fully reflects. I don't want to stray into customer services because that's my colleague behind me, who I'm sure will cover that. But our role in digital is to take up opportunities to work with those groups. So to work with All Wales initiatives, to work with whatever we can do locally, certainly working with social care to deliver, I'm trying to think of the term that isn't dumb devices, less complex devices, really simple devices that anyone can use, assistive technology and so on. So we'll be looking at technical solutions, the ability to work with groups, train and engage. Of course, there'll be some people who don't engage in that, and that is a customer services issue then. But our role is the digital end of it. Mark, did you want to?
I guess the only thing I'd add to that, just to echo what Tracy said, as part of the development of the digital strategy, the very issues you talked about were kind of raised in the consultation and engagement we did. So that comes over loud a bit and it continues to do so. We'll be in a difficult position financially, but we still recognise that those particular sectors and groups of people want to behave in a particular way, and we need to respect that. So I guess it's a question of trying to encourage them to use digital channels, trying to upskill them to do that where we can, but recognising there are still people who won't be capable.
Absolutely, and I had a complaint last week from somebody who said their wife had failed to be able to, doesn't use her skills like so she should be able to take a complaint about something and make that complaint online. And when she eventually got through to somebody on the helpline, she reported that they were extremely rude to her and was saying that no, the only way that she could report a failure to collect a bin was online. And I don't find that, if that really is the case, I don't believe it is the case for a start. So we need to be perhaps informing our staff to be more compassionate on people who are just not able to go down the reporting things online route.
I think that's probably important for Mary to pick up in the latter one, because Mary's responsible for customer service.
It's a crossover here, I think.
Yeah, there is, yeah. I mean, as sort of Tracy alluded to, this is more about the strategy for improving skills out there, as opposed to a council's decision to encourage people, if that's the right word, to use a certain strategy. So we're picking up with Mary later, if that's okay.
You're right. This is a commitment on the digital side as a part of our strategy to ensure we do everything we can to consider all groups and people. And older people are one sector, but there are others who can't access for other reasons that we can still do a lot with. Not that we can't do anything with them. I think that's it.
Councillor Craffu.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to say Kate's point is well made, and I know many on the committee, Councillor Reeks, I think as well, has made similar points, and it's a very important point. And I think, I visited with officers the Smart Hub. I don't know if you've had a chance or heard about it, in the Newport market, where we're using digital technologies, and digital has a way of making it sound really complex. It can be really simple as a touch screen TV, and big writing to allow people to access services. And I really encourage you to go to the Smart Hub, where it is digital helping older people get services and get the support they need when they need it. And it's about not just us solely, as Tracy mentioned, but about us working with social services as part of the strategy to enable the right digital support to those who need it, particularly of the older age bracket. The Smart Hub was just one example, led by the OT team, who should be commended to the highest help, and I told them that. But we support any other team, particularly dealing with older demographic to deliver digital strategies that enable them to have a better quality of life. And I totally appreciate, and we totally appreciate, that older people will need to be supported in this journey. But I always say this point, and Councillor Riggs will all know, is we are the fastest, youngest growing city in Wales. Kids use devices like I can't use. They're just growing up with devices, electronic devices. And if we don't keep pace with them, we are going to soon be out of date. And so, yes, we have to support those who are older to, part of the digital strategy. But the key part of the strategy, and why it's 5 years, is we have to be ahead of the game of the young people coming through the ranks. Otherwise, we're going to be not delivering the services for them, and they're going to be the future drivers of growth in this city. And if we're going to be a digital city, we have to be a digital council. So we have to be mindful of both groups.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Petrie. Any other questions?
Picking up on, sorry, Chair, picking up on what Councillor Petrie said, and obviously what you're saying there, Tracy, staying on Kate's point of page 46.6. You've got the marketing sign up delegates for Get Connected Digital Skills course. That was planned to take place in April, May. What sort of take-up did you have, and what was the demographic of that? And you know what you said, Councillor Petrie, there's some of us at our age that still can't keep up with digital as it is. So was it purely aimed at, let's say, the older generation, or was it the net cast out to all and sundry to help sort of get on with the digital age, as it were?
Thanks, Mark.
It's not aimed at any particular age group, so it is based on the lack of skills. So that's what it's based on. Obviously, there are certain demographics that are probably more likely to attend and so forth. It's fairly early days in this journey. I'm saying
it seems from what you're saying there, it's just really weird.
Yeah, and I think
that
what we realise as well is that we can't do it alone. So we can't improve the digital skills of the city as a council. We can do a part of that, but it's private sector, other organisations that can contribute to that. So this, I have to say, is relatively early days of this journey, but it's committed to it in terms of the strategy, in terms of the importance of it, and that's obviously been mentioned by members of this Scrutiny committee.
Do we have any numbers then on what the take has been? So
I'd have to come back to you on that. Sorry.
And also we can perhaps pick this up at the 6 monthly point as well. It'd probably be more useful.
Yeah.
Councillor Ross?
Thanks, Joe. Hi, JC. My question is actually about the managing staff absence section. Before I ask the question, though, I just want to say I'm so glad you addressed the 20% figure on the Welsh language, because I was going to ask about that. My first reaction when I saw that figure was just what? Yeah, I was looking at that, thought, really? But yeah, I'm glad you've addressed that, so thanks. I've been talking of the figures as I read through the report. It sort of dawned on me very quickly that some of these figures can be a little bit misleading. Quite low percentages can be green because the deadline for completion may be 3 years down the line. So we've got to be a little bit careful when we start looking at the percentages. But regarding the staff absence, I can remember in a previous scrutiny committee, we talked about the move from a punitive system to more of a staff supportive system, looking at staff well-being and so on. But then again, as we say, be careful with the figures. When you look at the figures on this report, obviously there is a red, the figures seem to be going up for staff absence. I suppose my question is sort of, there's got a few different points to it really. One is, do you think those figures themselves are a bit misleading, bearing in mind that we're coming out of the pandemic and we're moving away from maybe people who were working at home now moving back to the office? I don't know what effect that would have on their stress levels or even circulation of illnesses because more people are back in the office. So is there any evidence of that? And the next question is a little bit more difficult to quantify, I think, but have you got any sort of evidence on the well-being approach as opposed to the punitive approach? Is that having an effect on staff morale generally within the corporation? Are people seeing the benefit of that and feeling the benefits of that?
Thanks. I'll start and then I'll pass over to Kevin if I can. So a couple of things on that. The data on sickness is really challenging. So when we haven't got all the Wales figures in yet, when we look at the local authorities, it's kind of this is included, that isn't, and trying to compare like with like is really difficult. So there's that. And then do we compare with other industries where we're not necessarily comparable and they don't have the same working arrangement? So that is a challenge, getting a comparison. Do we think our figures are robust? Yes. Was I hope that they'd improve next year, further away from the pandemic? Yes. We do have issues with, as you say, mental well-being issues for sure. And also we're still seeing some COVID and definitely long COVID impact and absences. So there's those elements. We've got really positive feedback on the new wellbeing policies, particularly from the Employee Partnership Forum and the unions, who were extremely keen to see that continue. We need to look at whether that approach is right for us and whether that does make it more difficult for managers to challenge absences. It shouldn't. One can still challenge absences. And I have to say, the previous, as you call it, more punitive approach didn't work for anyone. You know, managers didn't find it particularly helpful. The unions didn't find it particularly helpful, and members of staff didn't. So we definitely need to find a new way. But I think what we need to do this year is unpick that and work directly with managers on the ground to understand what they need to help them manage sickness in an appropriate, well-being orientated but robust way. I've never said it all.
Yeah, if I'm trying to think of what else, yeah, echo those thoughts, and also obviously particularly the wellbeing one does require, you know, a significant look at this year to understand, you know, what are the impacts. COVID, as you've said, wasn't included in those figures previously. Now it is. We changed the policy. Has that impacted the figures? What sorts of absences are attached to that figure? Mental is the highest, but then there's surprisingly perhaps musculoskeletal type illnesses closely followed. But where's that come from? Is that from an aging workforce or not, or is it something else? So it's a challenging figure, and it does need reviewing to try and push that back.
Well, yeah, I think getting that balance between the well-being of the employees, but you're right, I mean, management do need that ability as well to challenge absence. You know, that still needs to be there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a massive improvement on the system that has been used previously. Not just you, obviously, other employers as well have used similar sorts of systems, and you know, sorts of automatic triggers, which don't take into account what might be going on in the background. They're just automatic triggers. You know, this system is, you know, massive leap forward, I think.
Thank you. And again, the 6 monthly point will probably have more information on that. It's just too soon to have all of the detail.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just going to pick the same question when it comes to review the service plan. It'd be good just to understand the progress and the review on, you know, what has the policy done to impact the numbers, and some of that data you talking about, Kevin, as well. Something important, I guess. Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Chair. Tracy, just picking up on that then, going back to the managers and undertaking the regular check-ins, obviously there's a change in practice, and with what you're doing now, the sort of the check-ins are improving. But you say that work is continuing to develop the measure. What are you actually doing to develop the measure to make it easier for managers to have the check-ins with their staff?
Range of things, actually. So we've identified some people for whom other arrangements are in place, team reviews, team meetings and so on. So actually, is that relevant for them? With colleagues here on the system side, we've made improvements to literally the system that managers use to record it, so it's easier, and literacy with and just upload that form.
Maybe less open for a certain.
Less open, absolutely, literally making it easier for employee and manager where that's needed, and you can choose either, and you can dip in and out of both, you know, as appropriate. We've provided some support around lists of what might be discussed at check-ins, and also kind of an enhanced check-in for managers. we've relaxed slightly the measurement, so it used to cut off exactly at 28 days or 31 days. And so if someone's on holiday on that day or off, then suddenly you're red because you haven't done it exactly within that time frame. And of course, we then promoted the reporting hugely. So we're also told, well, we're doing them, but they're not recorded. Well, they need to be recorded. It's not appropriate for it not to be recorded, and some work around that. So where we are now is the best position we've been in for about, in the first quarter of this year, for about 4 years, but we would clearly want to see a big improvement. And I would have to challenge myself a little bit to say, was it sensible to leave in a target of 80% given that we were on 24? That is where we'd like to get to. That is the eventual target. This year probably wasn't a realistically.
No, if you got the targets in the high, you keep pushing, and it's the best. It is the best way to do it.
I'd say the long-term goal should be 100%.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, that's what the target should be, because every employee should have an opportunity to talk with them to their line manager, should they?
and links to sickness, we've talked before about improvement of retention, employee engagement.
Yeah, and as I alluded to, I'm sure the check-ins happen, as you've sort of put in this, it's just they're all recorded, so you never got any come back when something does go wrong. It's just, that's the challenge. But yeah, it's really pleasing to see that, the last quarter of last year as well, sort of up to 50, so it's sort of massively moving in the right direction, which is great, isn't it? Pretty good. Any other questions?
Yeah, membership, sorry, on page 58. We've got in 2021, 2020 to 21 actual apprenticeships, 29 per 1,000 employees. We did 17 in 22-23. Any reason you feel that apprenticeships have gone down? Is this because we're not advertising and promoting the apprenticeship service, or is it just that we're not going to take up because people don't work with the council? But any insight into that?
Yeah, it's partly we had some central funding to promote apprentices, so we would be able to fund and place apprentices into services short term. So there was something of a kind of priming of that and getting those people there. And with budget pressures, that's now more challenging. There is still funding to do that, but it's reduced on the previous level. What we need to do for next year, I think, is be more, flexible and think of new ways of working with service areas. So, for example, if we have vacancies or areas that are hard to fill, could we introduce apprentices and using vacancy funding? Can we think of other ways? Again, Kev, do you want to?
Yeah, and the only other thing to add is more support for the person who's already employed undertaking the apprenticeship programme as well, because that figure does include those people. It's not just a pure apprentice role. But I could go into an apprenticeship or whoever in terms of my skills. So I think there's someone that we can do try and support service areas to get involved, but that does become more challenging as the resource reduces as well. I understand that, but I think that's a challenging target at the moment, given we gave up part of the central funding and the other.
So as Councillor said, we're really looking at other industries, not just the tech, but as you mentioned, there's catering, for example, hospitality. So maybe looking at other things where you might be able to get a wider spread of people as well.
Yeah, there's been discussion of the regional skills partnership around and trying to join that apprenticeship programme across the different industries that bodies that represent that body. And that's in the early stages, but it's difficult to get off the ground then because people say, well, who's going to fund that bit, and where do they go at the end, and it's the employer, and those things.
So if somebody wanted to take an apprentice on, for example, the company Newport said, great, let's get some apprentices. Can they approach the council and the council and hold them to an apprenticeship scheme, or would they have to go to an outside source?
Qualification wills, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so they would go to so the working skills team in Facebook this area would be able to support some of that activity. Other than that, it would be about contacting the provider who delivers that programme in particular. So one of the larger providers we use is ACT, because they provide a number of different apprenticeship opportunities. So they would need to approach someone like ACT as well, potentially.
So just for clarity, then, the apprenticeships we're talking about is staff or reports to the council itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Councillor Fortin, did you want to come in? Sorry.
Yeah, it was about page 59, the number of social media followers. What's the plan target moving forward, please? And what strategy have you got in place to achieve it? And if you do achieve it early, because your strategy is so good, what is your stretch target going to be?
Thanks. Interestingly, we're not convinced that this is a useful target. So it is the current target because it's quite difficult to get communications targets. But I think at the last scrutiny said, is this a useful thing to count? Should we be using other methods to count? Does it matter how many people follow us? It matters how many people we reached. They don't have to be following us for us to reach them. So a little bit complex. So one thing we need to do is review that target and whether there's a better measure. We don't have very sophisticated methods of monitoring that, so that is something we're looking at, the systems. And we've got examples where individual posts reach much, well, actually, I don't know if they reach that many, but people liking and so on in the tens of thousands, and then other posts that may or may not have reached those 45,000 people. So we're not sure whether this is the best target. That said, we're pleased to have met it. We're looking at our service plan for next year to review whether that should go up and whether we introduce another target. I think we'd like to see a better measure of reach, and followers is not necessarily that. Janice, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, it is about that kind of what question that we're looking at. So it might be that we've got X amount of followers, but if they're not engaged, we may as well not have them. So it is about kind of how can we measure, is that collective posts? Is that around people that engage with those posts? So lots of work to be done there, I think. Also some of the platforms that we use are not as easy to get the metrics from as some of the others. So we just need to kind of have some thought about the so what element of any measures.
I was just going to say, what does that thought process currently look like?
So it relates, I think, Councillor Petrilli wants to come in, but I'll also say that also relates to the development of the website. So what we know is that our website doesn't have especially good feedback. So we've gone out to, you've probably seen the tweets, we've gone out to members of the public to ask for people to work with us on the redevelopment of the website. And that would include links, obviously, to our social media. So the website development is the first priority. And then we're looking to engage with people and take feedback from them, I guess.
Can I just throw a quick suggestion at you then, please, with you're going out and looking for support? Would it be possible to utilise some of the schools and the sixth forms and the work and the pieces that they do as part of their coursework and get those guys involved?
Thank you.
Chair, can I suggest the youth councils of schools?
Thank you.
Councillor Petrilli, did you want to come in on that point?
Thank you, Chair. It was just to answer Councillor Horton's question about stretch, and I think that is the key point that Tracy and Janice were talking about. The stretch is not a higher target. The stretch is the engagement, and getting that and a proper engagement as well. And I think it alludes to Kate's point earlier on, and Councillor Reeks. The fastest growing demographic engaged on Facebook are the over 65s. And are we good enough at capturing that data, understanding who engages, who doesn't, when they engage, why they engage? No, but that is the conversations we are having now, because if we're going to bring along the older demographic who are starting to use Facebook more and more, that is one of their primary tools, and we are not there yet, but it's definitely on my radar, and I know it's on officers' radar. So that's the stretch to answer your question, Councillor Horton.
Can I just counter that then, Dimitri? What resource do you feel that you need then to make that happen? And is there any way that this committee can support you in achieving that if there is a resource you require?
We are in the midst of understanding the resource required, but I am sure we'll update the committee what resources needed and what support, if any, we need from the committee. But thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you.
So on a related, because I'm conscious it falls between us, within customer services and as part of transformation, we're also looking at a review of all of the different contact points people have with the council. And of course that would include social media, but it might include using the website, it might include coming into one of our offices. So that's one of the things we've committed to do this year and to learn from that. It's a while since we've done that.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, pick up a couple of points then.
Yeah.
Point one, which is when the new norms to do with the asset management plan and disposal of assets and everything else. So it says expected completion dates of 31st of March 2023, which is gone. So I wouldn't have expected that to have a green on it. But we've gone past the deadline date.
Yeah, it says 25%.
That's what I was thinking. Is yeah.
Yeah, I guess with the new normal, and maybe we need to look at that percentage. So we formally closed that project during the last quarter. We've reviewed it, we've taken lessons learned, and we've taken huge pieces of that work completed. HR policies, member technology, huge chunks of it. The outstanding bit is around buildings, and therefore that's been taken into the asset rationalisation programme. So we have closed it, there's the left over work, so the percentage is clearly.
Yeah, it's mine. Yeah, it goes to complete then.
Yeah.
And just picking up on the sort of asset management point, I think the committee raised last year about sort of understanding where our assets are and what we own, and particularly, you know, it relates to a point a bit further down, which was my second point on the following page about the civic centre and, you know, the office environment and everything else and the new normal. And where we're at in terms of, because that sort of suggested that 75%, that particular target, I presume that forms part of the sort of overall asset rationalisation as well in terms of what we've got. So there's a couple of things sort of pulling together what I think is a key piece of work, I'm sure we all do, in terms of sort of understanding what we've actually got, what we no longer need, what we can repurpose, and actually what can save us some money going forward to reinvest elsewhere. Does that make sense, the question? Is that all right? Yeah.
Sort of, I think. Shall I just cover what we're doing about that?
Yeah.
Right. So we have a separate piece of work, the kind of first big piece of our transformation programme, which is asset rationalisation, which may or may not be reductions. It's about rationalising, are they the right things? And involved in that is understanding all of the assets of the authority, which is more complex than you might think, I suppose. You know, we've got commercial assets, we've got garages, we've got bits of land and so on. So there's a piece of work collating that. We have a strategic asset management plan, which is out of date, so that is being currently redrafted, and that is where all of the assets will come together. And within each of those assets, we are looking at the types of things that you alluded to, which is, I guess, the revenue cost or revenue income, because some of them make money.
Yeah.
The things like the energy rating and the future carbon issue, the future maintenance liabilities, for want of a better term. We're also reviewing our community asset transfer policy and approach, because we have cases where we've handed over assets to communities that have been hugely successful and others where we've brought them back in again. And so what do we need to do to make that a more robust model? And this is the thing. And we're also looking at data about the wider need within each community. If we've got too many assets in one place and not in another, that type of thing. So I'm hugely simplifying that. Huge programme of work, all service areas engaged in a project that's geared up in the current year and being with that plan. And I hope very much we'll see some
progress in that by next summer.
Thank you.
And more help with planning.
Right. Any other questions?
Thank you, President.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's right. We just take a 2 minutes or a comfort break, but I think we need to go before your next. Yeah, hopefully it sort of helps. So it must be there.
again.
That's okay, over to you. I don't know if you've got to have them there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, over to you then. Thanks.
So we're reporting another transitional year this year. Last year, I looked back and Gareth was reporting a transitional year for other reasons last year, but for a number of reasons for us this year, not least replacement of a long-standing head of service with myself in December of this year, which impacted on having to replace me with another assistant head of legal services. In addition to that, we've seen the retirement of the head of electoral services, as well as the introduction of the Local Government and Elections Act in May 22, which has had an impact on our service delivery. Each of our service areas have also seen implementation of new technology. The registration services implemented a new diary system, legal services, case management system, and some elections technology began in the electoral team. Despite all this change, we've largely managed to meet performance measures. Turning to those, we do have one AMBER reporting in relation to the registration of births, but that can be explained by that being a hangover from COVID recovery, when it was difficult to trace parents who weren't able to register their births during that time, so they remain unrecorded. I think it's important to note that we are meeting our General Registration Office statutory targets this year as in previous years. We also see some first-time recording of key performance indicators as a result of the Local Government Elections Act and implementation of the participation strategy. So, for example, participation in consultations, views of scrutiny committees, and gauging how involved members of the public feel in the decisions that are being made for them. Looking at our risks, we've seen a reduction in risk in terms of the implementation of the elections legislation. This is largely due to the voter ID implementation having taken place, but it's important to note that this risk might rise as and when the elections take place. And an increase in risk in terms of budgetary pressure on service demands, which is inevitable when you have big changes in staffing. We've seen it this year, so hopefully we're looking to sort of settle that down over the forthcoming year. Turning to some of the actions which are showing as amber, the redrafting of the council's constitution is perhaps not where we would hope to be at this stage. Partly due to the retirement of the head of service, but also getting to grips with the new model constitution that's been implemented for the whole of Wales. We're looking to bring ours a bit more in line with that, and it's a time-consuming exercise, but we hope to have that on target for October 23. And then the full implementation of the case management system, that's actually now progressed considerably since Mike has taken post. So it's just looking at fine details of making it fit for the legal services team now, but we're hoping to have that all up and running and we're on target for March 24. Looking at some of the actions which are showing as green and actually would more appropriately be amber. The carbon reduction literacy training and co-training for members is showing as green, when actually it's not completed. This date has been changed for next year. Whilst 58% of members have, it's been offered to 100% of members, but 58% of members have taken up the training. It's not been possible to ensure that all 100% of members attend. It's not a compulsory member training module. So we're looking at some alternative delivery methods. We won't be able to bring forward any full member training because of the cost implications, but we're looking at e-learning packages to try and increase take up. In addition to that, linked to that, the other action is in terms of political decision making, and to ensure that we can demonstrate that decisions have taken into account climate change. That again, the date has been pushed to December 2023 to enable that to be implemented. That's an ongoing piece of work, and Leanne can help you a bit more with that if you want some more information on that. And the final point was in terms of the customer satisfaction survey for the registration service, which was reporting to be completed earlier in this year, when in fact it's linked to the Stopford diary system implementation, which has only come into effect this year. So that's another piece of work that will be completed in line with the new deadline, and we'll put some further commentary in the service plan to update that for the forthcoming year. I think that gives us an outline of where we are. If you have any more questions, we can take those.
Thomas? Yes, you mentioned this when we went through the percentage of births registered within 42 days, and you did explain that that was to do with tracking people down and difficulties registering birth. I actually wanted to make a point about the other end, the registration of deaths, because I've had in the last couple of weeks, I've had, well, 4 weeks actually, I've had one of my constituents passed on. It was very traumatic circumstances, and they'd been seriously ill and decided to die at home, and had extreme difficulty, and this is the wife, failed to manage to get anybody the necessary 2 doctors to sign it off. And I understand from other doctors it's a 5-day obligation to get those certificates signed, you know, and obviously that death can't be registered until that is in place. And I'm wondering how you deal with this and how common this is, because quite frankly, this death was foreseen. There was some sort of internal argument about who had seen him when, but that is no business of the family. The family should not have to deal with issues like that. This should be a seamless process, you know, with a lot of extra hard work that shouldn't have been necessary. He was able to come home and pass away in a place that he wanted to be, and they shouldn't have had to deal with this. And I feel extremely sorry for you if you're having to chase other parties round because they can't be efficient in their statutory obligation to make sure that those certificates are signed within the necessary time frame. So I just wanted to ask you whether that was a common experience, and how you can deal with it when you're dealing with people who don't see that as their priority. Sorry, I really don't think I was sorry when that happened.
Yeah, can I add on to that? Because recently 2 of my neighbours passed away. I had one in January this year, and he was only 30. And his mother died the year before that, coming out of lockdown and whatever. And they both had to have post-mortems done because they both died in the house. And it wasn't suspicious at all. It was natural causes, you know. And I know the family went through quite a long, you know, without the grief and all, because it was 7 years.
People need to get planning funerals, and they can't do that until the paperwork is in place.
It actually took months for him to get a funeral done. Yes.
It wasn't as traumatic as that, but it was unacceptable, and it's nothing to do with us. But you know, we're dealing here. We have partner organisations who we have to work with on a day-to-day basis, and when they don't fulfil things, you know, this is very difficult, and it interferes with the smooth running of our processes as a council.
And it's also very upsetting for the family.
Absolutely.
Yes, heartbreaking.
Okay, you're talking about 2 different processes.
I know. Sorry. I wasn't sorry to throw it at you.
Very gratefully, there was no post-mortem required for the gentleman who was my constituent.
You're absolutely right on 5 days. That is the target, that the medical certificate of cause of death, which would be for your constituent, that should be completed within 5 working days and the death registered. Since we've come out of the pandemic, we largely don't see that anymore. With COVID, yes, and there've been a lot of changes. So some of those changes we understand, and some of them we don't, because they happen in the NHS rather than
Exactly.
I can speak to it a little bit though. So there have been changes in the way the NHS see people after COVID. Some of the easements of the Coronavirus Act allowed for the people to fill out the paperwork.
I'm aware of that.
And at the end of the act,
which I think was very unsatisfactory.
at the end of the act, that was withdrawn and it was back to the
we're back to normal now.
And some GP practices haven't gone back to the way that they worked before COVID. So fewer people are seen by their GP in the required timescales. Maybe they've been seen by nurse practitioners or palliative care team, but not actually by their GP, and the law still requires the GP to fill out the paperwork. So there are some challenges for GP surgeries in those circumstances. This time of year as well, unfortunately, the doctor that saw you may have gone on annual leave for 2 weeks and not be available to fill out the paperwork. And then within hospital environment, there's also the challenge of the medical examiner who's been introduced to that.
Yes, I'm aware of those as well.
That is causing delays as well. So all of those factors put together, it's now quite challenging to see a death registered within 5 days.
So is the law going to be changed? Have you got a heads up on this?
There's a change linked to the medical examiner system, which is currently rolling out through hospital and community deaths. It won't be statutory till probably April next year. And at that point, the change in the law will come in and it will change from 5 days. The proposal at the moment is 7 days, but until that law is actually passed.
I mean, I would hate, as I have a feeling that some sloppy practice going on, in the rigour of that system on the NHS side, I would hate to see that used as an additional, just them seeing it as something that was more lax and they could go on and drag things out even further. I realise that. But I mean, the medical practitioner, what was the name of that? Medical examiner that was actually brought in. I mean, I know we're talking a long time ago, something prehistoric now, but that was brought in so the shipman situation would not happen again. And I mean, look how long ago that is and how long it's taken to do that. And then they bring in these, but that system isn't perfect either. I can remember in response to a consultation on that either, pointing out some of these things. Anyway, thank you. I do hope it all goes smoothly for you.
In terms of the sort of local authority targets in relation to that, have we got targets to register in within 5 days? Is that what? Right, okay.
Addition to legislation. So that is overseen by the General Register Office.
Yeah.
And what we are seeing in Newport is a national picture across England and Wales. It's not just here. They're obviously monitoring that. But yeah, we're very much, it's national picture. It's not just a Newport picture.
So in terms of registering the death, because you've got to get the certificate from the medical examiner. Have we got data that says how quickly we're registering it after the certificate has been issued?
So
because that's the key point, because that's the bit we can implement.
That's right. Our target is to be able to offer an appointment within 2 days when family contact us if we've got all of the paperwork, and we're 100% on that target.
Okay. Yes.
I have to say, the feedback which I have about the registration service is always very positive.
Just to say as well, just to address your point, that 5 days doesn't apply when the death is revealed in the coroner.
Because it's an
impossible target. Yeah.
Councillor Rees?
Not sure if it's for you, Jane, or for you, Liz, but just want to pick up and talk about the diary system for registering births and for registration appointments, etc. That sort of came in 4th quarter 1, 23-24. So is this all fully operational now? Is it working well? Is there? You can't stop that.
It's fully,
The other side.
it's fully functioning and we're using it, and all of this deaths are being recorded in that diary at the moment. But that's the phase one. So that testing is going on, we're using it, it's working, and now we're working with Stopford company to get to the next stage, which will be online booking. So the public will be able to go online and book their own appointment for births. So that's the next step.
So that's the appointment to come and see you if you have been registered, is it all?
Yes. So at the moment we can register what's recorded appointments into the diary, but the next phase, which will hopefully be happening in September, is to get linked up to the website and you'll be able to go on your phone in the middle of the night when you're feeding a baby and book an appointment to come and register with them. So that's the next phase. And then after that, it will move on to the ceremony side. At the moment, we're focusing on the births and deaths side.
And even if there's a stop for them, what is
The company that we bought the system
right?
from.
Okay.
So we're working closely with them. They have their system with a lot of register officers. They possibly know about registration than I do. So they're just working with us to go through the different phases, testing everything robustly before we put it onto the website and anybody tries to book. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a question, but coming on to
Yes.
6, it's about having the photos for the election. I'm concerned about mostly older people. Are they going to have a passport or a driving license? You know, when they turn up to vote, would that be a problem for them? Do you think?
I think it's fair to say that's certainly a challenge that's been recognised as part of the voter ID rollout. That the electoral commission did some work beforehand to understand what the demographics might be more likely to be disenfranchised by it. Also, in May this year, again in a period of analysis taking place surrounding understanding what that mean for people who wanted to vote and couldn't. So yeah, there's certainly aspects of that we would expect to see. However, that information having England voters should help us tailor a communication plan to make sure that we are engaging with the harder to reach groups more. There are already voter ID, like you say, passports, driving licence and travel IDs that are acceptable to use. But what we want to make sure is that everybody knows they need that voter ID before they turn up to the polls and they know which ones are acceptable, which ones are not. If not, then we can offer them free voter authentication.
So is there publicity?
Yeah, yeah.
Just wondering, but because we're supposed to be having a general election next year, is that correct?
Yeah, so you might have seen, I did notice on some TV channels there was advertisements before the England polls. In Wales, an agreement was made to not promote it before those May polls because we didn't want to, number one, confuse voters because we weren't doing any polling this year, and number two, because it was a new system that's centrally fulfilled. What we wanted to make sure was that those England voters were prioritised and they were able to get their certificates through. What we are starting in September is our own rollout and communication plan to make sure that we are giving people plenty of notice so that they can understand that they need the voter ID, what they have that they may already be able to use, and if not, how to get ID.
But there is an alternative, they can have postal voting.
Absolutely, yeah. Postal voting doesn't need you to turn up in the poll station with your ID. You're absolutely right.
Okay, thank you, Leanne.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry.
That's okay, thank you. Yeah. Going on page 72, 4 of the plan. The point there in coroner and our additional assistant coroners to address workload issues and to backlog of runners in the press. No, it's not backlog in the lines.
Oh, you know what? We went to recruit twice last year for an area coroner. Unfortunately, we didn't find any position. But we have got 2 assistant coroners who are training up now, started to take their police load and to be in classes. So that is helping out give support to our senior coroner. Backlog is coming down nicely. We are listing cases. So we were listing it about 13 months later, and now that's down to 8 to 9 months, and it's coming down nicely. So we're hoping that by the end of 23-24 year, we'll put back to the 6-month target that we would aim for the listed in April. So it's all on track.
Perhaps then share something we look at in the 6-month review measuring it.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can pick up a question on the same point, I recall the sort of conversation last year that we had sort of some staff employed by the local authority, some by the police, I think.
Yeah.
And we were trying to bring them all under the service level agreement to sort of manage them. Is that sort of still the case? Or?
We've been exploring various options internally and with Grub Police, looking at the best long-term options. We're looking at an additional post now to manage the officers a senior post, which that's gone through job evaluation. We've got a job description, so that's well on the way to being implemented. And then we're looking at bringing our own staff in line with the police staff in terms of conditions. That's well underway. In terms of what we do with the Gwent Police, their preference is for a service level agreement. So we're reviewing that in terms of where we are with the new staff that we've got coming in and how that would work going forward. This work should be completed fairly soon.
You get a much better answer for that at the 6-month point as well.
Yeah, yes, a work in progress, but it is progressing.
Yeah, brilliant. Any other questions? I've just got one if I could do. Sorry, no, I've just got one if I can. Percentage of people who feel able to influence decisions affecting their local area. So we've got an actual of 30%, and then based on a national survey for Wales and local data, that's like quite a difficult measure to quantify unless you ask somebody the question, and I presume that's what the local survey is intended to do.
Yeah.
Where did we get the 30% for this year? Was that a bit of a finger in the air job?
No, so this is linked to the communication strategy which all councils are expected to adopt as part of the Government Elections Wales Act. So that was brought in May last year, so it's the first year of any of these measures. You know, I'd certainly say there's a debate to be had if we've got it right, are they the right measures going forward. As a baseline, so we looked at what we could already observe and take from. So that national survey for Wales, the title was conducted across Wales, but there are some Newport specific metrics that you could pull. There was a first step, that's what we pulled, was that 30%, and it's based on a set of questions rather than any one response. I can certainly provide the link to members if that's the difficult survey. And then what we're looking to do this year is run our own local survey. Some of the questions will be identical so that we can replicate exactly the same thing, compare like with like. And some of them might be a little bit more Newport centric, so we can start to delve into local issues a bit more.
Yeah, because there's another measure in here somewhere we couldn't find it to refer to. That's why it's something like 9% of people respond to our survey. It's on page 1. And I was thinking, how does 30% feel they're able to contribute for only 9% do? That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
the national survey questions do things like you feel like you are able to influence decisions in your local area and those type of questions, whereas we've wanted maybe something a bit more quantitative for the other measure, and it's quite a challenging one around participation and engagement. I think there's always work to be done working in that. So what we looked at was consultations that have been run within the year, the level of participation within those consultations, and then compared that to residents and reports. So again, is it around a perfect measure? I'm not sure. But as a first step, try and look at that. You know, if they decide that was the measure we continue with, you know, even a 1% increase is quite a sizable number of Newport residents. So yeah, and the other challenge is if you are an engaged resident and you participate, you might be reflected in more than one consultation.
Yeah.
So we say 9% is the best measure we can get, but it could be that, you know, those people are being double counted somewhat.
And what I was also thinking is lots of people just engage with their elected member, and that's their way to influence decisions. So, you know, we hold our monthly board meetings where people attend. So there are a number of people that perhaps you're not capturing because they're coming direct to us, and then we're sort of making those inquiries on their behalf or influencing, or, you know, people raise stuff at our board meetings and I'll potentially put questions to the leader or a cabinet member about that, because so it's thinking about the ways to capture them well, which people will really be probably doing more perhaps than you guys would think or see.
We are seeing a need for production of ward meetings starting in the latter part of this year, so that will capture a bit more in terms of participation.
Yeah, maybe you guys will only do sort of one or two or whatever it is, but we just run them monthly, every month, and repeat Wednesday a month. So it's capturing that, I'm sure, the councillors do as well across the city. Just thinking about that as
Can I just ask it then, where that the figure 159,658, what is that reflective of? What's the demographic of that?
Sorry, where are you looking at?
Page 80 was sort of point that Chair was just referring to in terms of the 9%, sort of consultation rate. You've got 9%, 13,000 out of 159,658. What's that? Is that number of 18-year-olds over in Newport that you could potentially engage with? Where's that figure come from?
Those participants responded in consultations and surveys.
59,000.
So the 13,740.
Yeah, 30,000. I'm just trying to understand where the 159,000 figure, what that is reflective of.
It's reflective of residents in Newport that could potentially participate. So ideally we'd be reaching everybody. That's what my engine target, I would say.
Does that figure include children?
I believe it includes all residents, yeah, because we think about the youth council, and if we think about imagination rights for the child, participating in decisions that affect children. It's pretty relevant. Don't believe there is for the rights of the child. I would check on it. Some further information.
I think realistically there should be. See something. You
might yourself short with the 9%.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, if actually only 100,000 are actually genuinely able to, for whatever, because they're so minor that they can't participate, whatever, it might be that your figure's much higher in terms of percentage. So.
Yeah, certainly check. So it's the first year of recording.
Yeah.
Open to ideas of it.
Yeah, can we go back to page 77, please? About the members training. We've just had recently training on the carbon literacy. This might be a question for the end. Is it mandatory that we have to fill in the, not just the evaluation, the follower certificates? Because we've all received another email today saying he wants to.
Yeah, so.
Because I did fill it in, only obviously it wasn't enough wrote on there.
It is, because
and it's quite a lot of work to be done on there.
Yeah, the target is that everybody gets accredited, but not everybody gets
back to uni again. Writing an essay.
Yeah, there is that bit of post-course work required to get that accreditation. So, ideally that's what we're working towards, and it's part of the carbon zero strategy to get our members accredited in that way. I know Liz mentioned earlier that we've offered sufficient spaces for members to complete the course, but it is a 2-day course. We appreciate that.
That makes it a lot more difficult.
Plus the post-course work. So we did a bit of experimenting, did one course in the evening, but I think, as Liz said, what we're going to look at is different vehicles to support members to be able to do that. Whether that's an e-learning course where you've placed almost along the way to prove that accreditation. Perhaps taking a different angle at it, which is why that date was changed actually to be 31st of March 2024.
Okay, thank you.
If members have completed that training with other organisations, example Canol Cymru, could they just send you the certificate and you take it off?
If it's the same course, yes, I can't see why that would be interesting.
Well, they were the deliverer, weren't
they?
Yeah, I've done it my word. It's a personal question, really. You shouldn't ask it, but I have done it and I don't want to do it again. So I send you a certificate.
Support with the post work, with that formal, what might help to get that accreditation. Then just give it a shot. Democratic services we look to support.
Yeah, it's the same course. It's all recorded as.
Any other questions?
One more of your time.
Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Very quiet there.
Yeah. Lots of signal. Yes.
Well, right, well, no, nice to meet you at full council. You're
Likewise, yeah.
It's interesting.
Absolutely. Of course.
That's nothing to say, Mario.
I beg pardon?
Yeah, no, that's have nothing to say.
I don't know if you've got a cabinet member here, Leo. No, it's mainly the leader. Right, yeah, we've had apologies already, but not exclusive. Over to you, Linda. Thank you, Chair. So I'm here with Rob Green, who's the Deputy Head of Finance, and online I've got Richard Leake, who's Procurement Manager. I've got Louise Hughes, who's a senior revenue officer, standing in for Emma Johnson, who's on leave. I've also got another couple of my managers on leave as well, so apologies for that, but school holidays and etc. So if I can't answer any specifics, then I will speak to my colleagues when they're back, etc. Yeah, no problems. Come back to you, but hopefully we'll do our best. So in terms of the service plan, it's been a good year. You will notice that the budget was managed fine. We've kept a good eye on our risks, and 2 or 3 of them have kind of decreased. A couple of new ones as well. And we'll be taking another look at those this year again now. Most of our objectives, we've kind of made reasonably good progress on them. Lots of them have been completed last year, in particular in the procurement area, on the kind of TOMs and carbon, and in particular on the cost of living and sort of the last bits of the COVID support schemes. A lot of those were completed last year, so we've just updated the service plan recently, and they've now gone. Making good progress on the self-service in revenues and benefits. A lot more work there, but we've got the IT now in and so working. So we're now at the kind of design stage. And same for the council's new finance system as well. That has been pushed forward a bit, but we're targeting November, December now. So it's been, a good year for delivering on those objectives, and certainly we've got a couple of red performance indicators. They are reported within finance, but they're organisational wide PIs, which is the budget managers who are kind of forecasting on their budgets every month, and the second one is on the grant claims submitted on time. Whilst that is red, there was no impact on the grant claims that were submitted. In most cases, the departments knew that there was going to be a delay, and that was fine. But it's red because it was late. And that's it, Chair. For me, happy to take any questions.
A comment, it's very rarely we see Cs turned up in that column, and you've got a lot of them completed.
We've got a lot of them certainly in the procurement area and in the cost of living area, and that's actually because a lot of the schemes that we're administering have now come to an end. Winter fuel payments will probably continue, but that won't feature on the service plan in the future. That's kind of day-to-day stuff now. The COVID stuff is kind of has now finished. And actually, you know, we've got a good framework in our procurements in this council. We've got this thing called the gateway process, and actually we were able to just put the Welsh Government TOMs and the carbon, etc., and the social value stuff into that existing process, because it actually can be expanded as and when new priorities for our procurement activity happens. So we were reasonably quickly able to introduce it and put it in. That's been discussed with corporate management team, the wider managers network in the council, and it's kind of embedded now. We've got a couple of vacancies in our procurement team, so we are struggling a bit to sort of administer to them, but they are embedded and sorted.
I'm going to let Councillor Adam say first.
Yeah, that was okay. Councillor Llun.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just a quick question around that, really. Page 109 of the report. So percentage of monthly forecasts submitted by budget managers. I can see obviously the report notes that it's a cumulative performance throughout the financial year for 22-23. There's a shortfall of around 13% there. I was just wondering, can you specify the service areas that are significantly underperforming or below target, as there's, you know, a significant variance across the service areas, and and the reason, of course, for those particular service areas as to why they're underachieving or underperforming in comparison to the others.
Yeah,
thank you.
So we can come back to you on the kind of departmental or service area splits. That is an organisational wide figure. So if that's okay, we will come back to you and with the breakdown of that on a service by service basis. There will be some services like finance that is going to be pretty much close to 100%. If you don't say so. Well, you know, absolutely, I'm not sure. Yeah. Whereas there will be others that are going to be even some lower than 67, because that is the average. Yeah, there is no, I mean, there's an expectation. You've had a discussion here today on return to work interviews or one-to-one interviews, or, you know, on the kind of PIs within the HR area, as it were. So this is just another area where we are continuing to focus the organisation and managers to do what's expected. And one of them is, if you've got a budget, you need to manage it, you need to forecast it, and you need to say that you forecasted it. Same as a lot of the HR kind of stuff, doing your one-to-ones, doing your returns to work, etc. We've got gaps, you know, that we're continuously pushing on. So we'll come back to you on the service by service detail. But there's a clear expectation that if you're a budget manager, you are expected to engage and do your role.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the challenges will obviously be the housing temporary accommodation budget, and that they wouldn't have been able to sort of forecast throughout last year as well as perhaps they might going forward. And that was one of the ones that in the last meeting that was significantly sort of overspent.
Yes, that PI is not really about the accuracy of forecast, it's about making a forecast.
Right, okay.
And actually saying, I've done my forecast. So it's not about how difficult it is.
Okay, in that case, then it should be.
But just on that note, we do have a PI again. All of the PIs are accounting new ones, so we are, you know, the targets, and we are learning a little bit as to what is a realistic target. But there was a PI in there. It's referred to as budget monitoring forecast accuracy, and we were looking at how much our total forecast changed between the last publicly reported forecast, which would be sort of December time, and year end, and that's looking at the council as a whole. So it wouldn't necessarily pick up on individual services, but that is a measure of how, if you like, how good we are at forecasting collective cost. Yeah. So yeah, we have that, but yeah, that only like we said, that's actually individual budget holders going into the system, because it is a system they use here, and they can forecast on a monthly basis. So yeah, that's what that is.
If I could follow up, Chair, just on a supplementary off the back of that, if possible, as well. And I was just wondering as well, could you give us an idea as to what the revised budget monitoring arrangements entail? And is it a blanket approach for all service areas, or is it targeting those specific service areas that are underachieving or underperforming? If you could elaborate on that, that'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, no, thank you for the question. So yeah, we are introducing slightly amended monitoring arrangements for this financial year. And we are in accountancy, you know, like all services, partly through, you know, resource constraints and things, we are being less hands-on in certain months and actually trying to push back on services whose responsibility it is to do those forecasts. So certain months during the year, not say the cabinet reporting months, but ones in between, we are placing greater reliance on the forecast that budget managers do themselves, in order to, like I say, push that responsibility and accountability back to them, because that's where that ultimately sits. They are the budget holders. They're responsible for managing their own resources, and therefore they should be responsible for doing those forecasts as part of that process. So, you know, taking it back to the PI and the shortfall on the PI, we are, as part of that, working a bit more closely with budget managers that need support in order to enable them to do a forecast. So they may have like confidence around financial forecasting or something like that. And so yeah, we are working with them to try and increase that PI, but critically is to put the responsibility back where it belongs. You know, our role is then to come in and support, as I said, and obviously sense check the figures that are being forecasted. But just to sort of conclude and take it back to your question, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to every budget and every service. You know, one of the key sort of aspects of our approach is that we recognise where the riskier areas are. So riskier areas or sort of demand-driven areas that are naturally more volatile. So, for example, parts of sort of services, and we will look at those more regularly. We'll have sort of sophisticated models that underpin the forecast that we do. So some areas will still get monthly attention because they merit it, other areas less so, but yeah, in those other areas, it's very much on the service manager, budget holder to take responsibility and do that forecast themselves, but we are obviously there to support that process.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Page 110, the percentage of internal audit plans completed. Now, if that's satisfactory, I can't judge that. But what I am aware of is this internal audit. I know that we lost Andrew Wathen. He moved on to another post, didn't he? And I'm actually quite concerned about what's the overall capacity of that team now compared with where it was, say, 12 months ago. And I ask that question because internal audit is one area where we can actually save money. You know, we can identify areas which are, or maybe the other way around, it can identify areas that might end up costing us money. And I was thinking of various investigations that came to our attention when I was on the audit committee. So I am concerned if the resources in that department are too depleted, it could actually end up being a weakness to us, which costs an awful lot of money.
Yeah, okay, so thank you. I haven't got good news for you because it gets even worse than what you thought it is.
Okay.
So the internal audit team is small. There are certain important aspects of their work around fraud that we don't focus enough time. And there's been a review recently by Audit Wales that's confirmed that.
Okay.
So we've got a problem anyway, even in the base resources. The problem we have is that you cannot find internal auditors at the moment. So we lost Andrew and we lost the principal auditor pretty much within the same week. That was back in April at some point. That then left us with one audit manager, one principal auditor, and 2 auditors within a structure of 6.5. So we have 4 out of 6.5. Unfortunately, those 2 auditors have now moved on as well.
So it just gets worse.
And then it gets even worse because now the audit manager resigned a couple of weeks ago. So they've all gone for jobs that, well, for different reasons. I mean, Andrew went to a regional service, a bigger service.
And I realised he was shared with another.
It's with 4 councils at the moment, yeah. So that was a promotion for Andrew. The audit manager who recently has resigned is going to Welsh Government for more money. The principal auditor who we lost went for promotion and more money. And the 2 auditors, one left because they wanted to pursue their work outside of audit, and the other one went for more money in Monmouthshire. So we've got a problem with our grading systems for that team.
Yeah, can I suggest,
so now we left.
Yeah, can I suggest, Chair, we need to make a recommendation here that this is not left as just something inevitable when these things happen. It actually may represent a considerable threat to us as a council.
So this one is the recommendations at the end anyway. So this one is a real sort of challenge. So 2 things from my perspective. One is short-term resources to try and keep the audit plan going. We have brought in external consultancy help to try and do a number of training days. That's really expensive.
Yes.
So therefore, I cannot afford to do the audit plan with external resources. It would cost me double the cost of the team, but they can do something. But of course, with the manager leaving soon, or September, then I need some interim help in the short term. In the long term, we're looking at a more strategic kind of issues around, do we merge with sort of other councils, etc., because we have a very small team. The internal audit pool of sort of talent out there is very, very small, and therefore actually, going it alone now with such a small team, it's become unsustainable.
Mary, does this appear on the risk register anywhere?
It will do.
Right. Well, I'm pleased about that, but you can't be complacent.
It didn't appear on the 5th of March because actually these people were here. In the last quarter, things have moved on quite significantly, as I've just explained. So that's what we're doing about it. So there is a short term and a longer term sort of aspiration, and I'm kind of looking into both aspects. I can't really go into the detail of that longer term one yet, but as soon as I've got some sort of views, I'll be able to sort of share that then. But as we speak here today, we've got some real risks to the delivery of this year's audit plan. And I will be asking that external consultancy to do more work than what's already on their kind of what they've got planned for. But it won't be the full audit plan because it's too expensive. But I will be asking. Chair of the audit committee is well aware of all this. I've made him aware personally. So we've got some real challenges in kind of audit this year, and we've got quite a job to resolve there, I think.
And because Leanne is still with us, perhaps, I mean, this doesn't directly relate to the business of this committee, but I think maybe councillors, and for one reason, because we have so many councillors who are comparatively new still in the role, if they haven't been on audit, they won't understand the importance of these internal audits, and maybe that's something that we could consider updating them on through these seminars which have been booked.
Yeah, I mean, especially when audit and governance are looking, they're going to be meeting this week.
It's a dry subject, and there are some
difficult reports there, some real issues, as it were, and actually it's really helpful for auditors to actually find those, because if something is not working, you want to know about it, don't you? Because you won't fix it otherwise. So there's an example of that this week with a couple of very sensitive areas. So yes, so the internal audit department, whilst it sounds dry, it does provide added value. You know,
Well, not just added value, it may save us having to look at the council tax one.
it's critical.
Formidable at that.
There will be other reasons that
In terms of transparency and,
I didn't
sure
in a
that we
political
protect public
sense.
first, it's really important.
Just a pragmatic sense. Nobody in a time of, you know, the financial crisis in the country, we certainly don't need to be.
So it's a key part of
having to raise that for our citizens again.
Yeah, no, it's a separate issue, of course. It's a key part of our governance arrangements, for sure. For sure.
We'll talk about what recommendation we do in the end. Yeah. Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Chair. Gents, it's looking at, reading through the report, it's obvious that, you know, government and it's like potentially issues coming through. I mean, mentioning page 90, see, and obviously we're just talking about there now. Yeah. But if you go through the sort of report, page 94 to 96, there's a lot of mention of delays to the 2021 accounts, and of course there's all delays there, and so you're still drafting the 22-23 accounts. Is that an impact because of recruitment, or is that have we got delays because of other reasons to all these accounts?
So 2022 accounts with other reasons. I mean, we did have a key member of staff off on maternity leave at the time, but we had a very capable short-term kind of replacement. There were external factors around accounting practices and requirements that affected all councils. One of the issues across the UK. So everybody was delayed because we were waiting for the guidance that came out on those issues. So we have actually published our 22-3 draft accounts by the end of June, in line with what we were targeting. So which is not to say that it's a real tightrope. The annual accounts, our corporate finance office is quite small, and we just about do it by the skin of our teeth normally in terms of these accounts. So you know, but yeah, is retention and recruitment an issue? Yes, this council probably doesn't pay as much as other councils for these professional roles. Local government doesn't pay like the health service and the civil service for these professional roles. You know, my competitors for staff is not the local council next door, it's health, it's the civil service, etc. It's accountants, procurement experts, etc. They work in all of these sectors. So we do have a real challenge within the local government sector, but also to an extent here within Newport as well. I believe, because there are roles in other councils that pay more and a better resource as well. But generally, all of our professional roles across the council, all services, are finding it a struggle, especially post-COVID, to recruit staff. It is a real problem. You know, there's just not bodies out there, either because we've not been training, or you know, I'm not too sure. People have retired, and we haven't got a cohort coming up. So, but that's not in my area. I think many services are struggling with that issue.
Sadly, yeah. When we talked to the HR report last year on recruitment and retention, it's part of the sort of things that came up really. And we talked about market forces supplements, but they only go, you know, a short way to it for the end of the day. So yeah, we're kind of really up to date on those challenges, to be honest. Yeah.
Just picking up on the point around the county, was it a resource issue on our side? Not to a great extent, but there are also the resource issues on the Audit Wales side as well. So, you know, the process we go through, we produce annual accounts, ideally by the end of June, and then Audit Wales will come in and audit those. So last year was a a double whammy. Then those technical changes that Byron referred to, which came very, very late in the day, totally beyond our control, but also Audit Wales were under the cosh, to respond to those technical changes and issue guidance and a consistent approach, but also actually just numbers on the ground, do the audit work. So we did notice a significant delay, and that is continuing into this financial year. So that was actually one of the primary factors.
Because they're also struggling with data. Yes, they are.
For your main on this then, so until the sort of the Audit Wales have done their part on the 2021, you couldn't progress any further then, because they said there's a number of these points in the pages are, well, because of the delays, etc. So was it that was holding you up?
It's quite hard to move on, because it's not as though the last audit was the sort of, they pick it up and put it down. It did sort of continue on, it was dragged out basically, that audit process. And because there were these added new technical changes, it added to the quantity of sort of work that normally gone during the audit. So what it meant was our final accounts 21-22 weren't certified until January. They should, well, really, they should have been done in the early autumn. So we're talking about a good 3 to 4 month delay on where those accounts should have been. And like I said, that extra 3 to 4 months, it wasn't like they went away and then came back 2 months later and gave us the period to pick up other stuff. It kind of got drawn out. So it was hard to kind of sit back and reflect on how did last year go as we go into the next year, because they almost sort of constantly into each other. So hopefully that won't be the case this year.
And I think this year they're targeting to get all the local government, not all, but most local government accounts signed off by the end of November, which is why we are coming to the Governance and Audit Committee at the end of November, early December, and to ensure that they can meet those deadlines. The real pressure for us was actually the existing staff, because they were having to keep the Audit Wales beast, fed, because they were there and they were asking questions all the way through. Whereas actually, you want to get on with the looking forward work, as it were, and you've normally got that done by the end of the summer. Well, actually, last year they were there all the way through until December, and the autumn's a really busy time with budget, etc. So therefore, the real challenge for us was about our own resources, being able to handle, juggling those kind of balls for a lot longer than normal. But there was no choice about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, just going on to what Councillor Petrini picked up on earlier, and Councillor Thomas as well, in terms of face-to-face with the people going in to the departments, etc. And the new booking instances, how are the team, when they're doing the face-to-face with residents coming in, are they coping with the less capable residents? What's the feedback from the team?
But my feedback I've got is that there doesn't seem to be much of an issue. There was a delay, of course, in kind of starting the face-to-face service at the central library, but that's now operating and operating well. And that's really the issue, that you were talking about earlier about people who can't engage digitally. It is a really hard one. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say absolutely 100% of Newportonians are not finding it's a problem. I can't. So I'm not going to. What we do know is that about 80% of our kind of website-enabled services comes through the website and self-service. It's a very good percentage. A lot of people have signed up for the My Newport services. And for things like the bins, etc. A very, very large percentage of those were already being done digitally, and that's why we took the balance, out as it were. It isn't going to suit 100% of people. I do acknowledge that, But actually what we're finding is that increasingly people are digitally aware and able. You know, one day I'm going to be even older than I am now, but I should be able to sort of do this because obviously I'm doing it now. So increasingly we're finding people are digitally able.
Yeah, it's
friends and neighbours.
Yeah, they're upset. And
yeah, and that's why I'm not going to say.
It feels like to come into a lot of people.
And I'm not going to sit here and say that not everybody is going to be absolute. Friends and family are able to actually transact on people's behalf on the mental health services.
But
that's really helpful.
We do need to be careful of that one. You know, I mean, this is sort of going back to things we've come across in health, where there's an expectation perhaps from a nurse or even a doctor, oh, bring your child in to translate, you know, where we have people from different communities. It's entirely inappropriate. You know, if we're able to offer a face-to-face service, even if it's inconvenient and messes with our projected figures, we need to, you know, we need to be respectful of the people who cannot do this.
Two other things. One is we have now opened our face-to-face centres so those people can come into those areas. There'll be a computer there and they'll be helped to actually go and do it if they can come in.
And it's really good to see the staff down there and welcoming and very constructive in their engagement.
And as you heard earlier, our website is being revamped significantly. And the intention is, of course, is that becomes an easier platform for people to use as well. So, you know, friends and family can use this to help, but you can also go in and get help as well at the council's face-to-face centre with computers there and with people there who can talk you through it if that is, you know, what you're left with as it were. It is always a difficult one. You know, we're not going to, and as the councillor Patricia said earlier, most of our transactions are already done digitally, and we mustn't forget about the need to improve that aspect that will help the vast majority of people who are transacting with the council. Not to say that we've got some people who can't or won't, but the vast majority are.
I prefer to see the user term can't. I mean, most people now realise that there are definite advantages in being able to engage digitally. You know, they are disadvantaged by not being able to, and they recognise that. So it really is a can't, it's not a won't. Very few cases it's going to be won't.
Yeah. So, but you know, we are making progress. You know, a lot of this was already done digitally, and there is help either friends and family or you come in and you help.
And the friends and family bits as well. You know, we all have an entitlement to be able to keep our business private. And sometimes the last people you want to share your issues with are your friends and your family. By tracking them in on the situation.
And within the health situation, I can get that. Most of our is about reporting things or requesting things. They're not in the same sensitivity.
As councillors, what we often find is they will refer to us to put their complaints or their issues. So, you know, we're like we've asked emergencies.
If I can come back now, the going from face-to-face now to phone contacts, customer contact centre average wait times on page 111 for 22 minutes and 59 seconds, which is underneath your 20 minutes 23 section under the 25 minutes target. How does that compare to sort of other authorities, do you know? And do you get a lot of complaints of residents that they feel 20 minutes is least far too long on the phone if they're not capable of doing this digitally?
Yes, okay, so that's an area that myself and the contact centre manager have an ongoing conversation about. Our main line waiting times are very, reasonably good
Okay.
Well, it's
Yeah,
20%.
exactly. So there is a reluctance, I feel, and also sometimes a training issue as well. So the capacity to put enough people to service that line, the council tax line. And there's an ongoing conversation about, can we bring in council tax police to help at peak times. We've got the data that will tell us when that might be helpful. Or the other one is to sort of say, well, we'll train more on the general line to do it. Now, of course, we've still got the same total resource, same total force. So if you're going to reduce the council tax rating time, you'll simply increase the kind of other one as well. So, but you know, but I think that is the ongoing conversation that I'm having.
Is the, okay, sorry to labor on this. When you ring up and you've got a council tax query, is it a press 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for that, 4 for council tax, or is it 3 per person and then they push you through?
It's shift first, 1 for council tax. Yeah. Yes, I think it's 1 for city office. Yeah. Yeah. So therefore, the amount of resources that we have, the services, you know, number 4 for council tax is a lot less than what we have for the general number. So there's 2 options there. I either bring in resources from council tax to try and help them and bolster the actual contact centre, or we try and train more people so that we can have more people on that council tax line within the contact centre. But maybe that will just shift those times up in terms of all the other calls.
Have you got the resources and the time to analyse what the calls are about and to be able to then direct those people more easily to doing it online, or is it people that are distressed because they can't get tax?
Yes, I mean that's a good question. So one of our 2 main thrusts at the moment is self-service on council tax and housing benefits. We've actually implemented and installed the software required so that people can do certain transactions.
Do you want to put those good? Direct sunlight.
I am, but not a. I think we lost. It's going to be an issue. So what we're now doing is to be encouraging people to be shifting digitally and self-service on contest. Will that have a positive impact on the ones that are coming through on the number? It should do. Time will tell. We've only just implemented these things. There is a lot of information about what the calls are about, etc. And some calls are really complicated, and actually they're probably better off served by the council tax department, not the contact centre, because you need somebody who works in that area as opposed to somebody who generally knows a fair bit about lots of things. So somebody who's a real expert in certain issues.
We could actually end up saving time if that was the case.
And that's the ongoing conversation as to how best we can resolve this. But that differentiation between those 2 calls, it does stand out like a sore thumb, even though it's within target. The target for 25 minutes is very the target's questionable, isn't it? Because it's very long. Yeah, well, it is very long. It was 22 minutes a year before. Yeah, we set a target higher than our previous, which just doesn't make any sense because you'd want to stretch and improve it, not get it worse. So, and it was 14 minutes a year before. We set it 25, so it should never be set at 25. The target is wrong, isn't it? I think the target is realistic in the sense of well achievement, but we 5 minutes. We can tweak it a bit, as it were, but that target to me should be way below the 20 minutes we achieved. I think it's miles out.
When resources taken out of the call centre budget.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, so
it's down in the budget.
Not in the council tax line, but in kind of in other things. We will bring that target down when we resolve the way of dealing with it. And it's either going to be, as I said, either council tax is going to have to go and bolster them at times, or we will have to deteriorate the mainline target by putting more people onto council tax, and we balance them for them. Well, I mean, that would be a better improvement, wouldn't it? If you, because it's 5 minutes roughly for general inquiries, if you were sort of 10 or 12 across the board, it'd be more palatable than 5 to 25. And that's the conversation that we're having in terms of kind of the options that we've got. I think the answer for us at the moment, where I'm at, is to do both, because we do know when we have a pickup in council tax calls, so we could bolster that temporarily with council tax staff, and also we probably need to have more people servicing the council tax line, training more of them, and yes, suffering a deterioration in that, but it can only be 5 minutes. Yeah, exactly. But we'll bring that one down by a fair bit. So that's exactly where we are on our conversations as well.
Yeah, there probably is some data out there, isn't there, when your calls come through, because you, going back to my local authority days years ago, used to send like the arrears letters out on a particular day of the month, and you know then that you get e-calls. So so when there's an water, etc. Exactly.
So we're pretty clear on those things. Yeah. So you've picked up the points that we know about, and that we're trying to sort of work through how best to resolve it. I think it really reaches of a number of things. Yeah. Any other questions?
The robotics question, when you see we're going to delete it, so
yeah, the robotics thing. I mean, actually, I'm not the expert here, and I'm not sure if Louise would know a huge amount about it, so I won't go to Louise. But Louise can sort of shout if you know much. But they did look at this robotics for revenues, but the self-service bits of this extra piece of software that we put in did a better job, and actually it was a better solution, and therefore we didn't have, so we looked at it, we just didn't take it forward at that time. It's not to say that it's not on the, it won't be looked at again, because everything's moving on, of course, but when we did look at it, the self-service module gave us a much better experience.
Because with machine learning nowadays, things change a lot.
Absolutely. So it's not been permanently pushed aside.
I just had a couple of queries on sort of some dates have passed, yet they're only on orange on view. One was the sort of the account activities, which Chris sort of picked up earlier, 3 and 4 on page 596. Sorry, 3, that's a continuation. So it's sort of the expected completion date March 23. We're only 15% complete.
Which is actually
page 96. I'd expect it because that's the completion date here is red potentially. And there's a couple more similar throughout. Just find where I've marked them now. It's in Australia, I'm sorry. So don't know where the other one, but there was 1 or 2 where the dates had passed. Oh, the other one was a June date, and it was only at 15%.
So I don't know if you say we would have probably updated that in all of our service plans. We've recently updated them. So if it was 15% in March and it's got an end date is of June, I'm going to guess that we would have extended because I think thoughts. Yeah, no problem. So we'll pick out the service plan spot. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. That's it from me. Anybody else? Anybody online? Councillor Horton, Councillor Dan, anything else?
Thanks, Chair. No.
No, I'm just really looking forward to Thursday.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your time, both. Sorry you asked again. I will arrange to get you shifted on the next one. So here we go. That's fine. So I think that's only 3. So we'll go in reverse all the time, so I think but that means you might get more questions, because it seems to me, and I know there's a question earlier on, but then.
Yeah. So just going forward with the information, to see what the minutes are captured to make sure, but yeah, I'll respond to you more. That's okay.
Spend some time in there today, Jill?
Yeah, a fair few comments, recommendations. Stuff that I got at the moment. So for regeneration, the number of new affordable housing units granted planning permission during the year. You said, Chair, that it would be useful to see the figures and overall percentage.
Yeah.
And Tracy said she can, you know, if you can do that. Councillor Thomas mentioned, do we have reports of how the council is bringing, did you say, Councillor Thomas, do we have reports on how much the council is bringing in terms of section 106 agreements?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Tracy said she can get those figures as well.
Because yes, obviously in these straitened times, we should, you know, we can.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And also how it compares to previous years.
Yeah.
Tracy was talking about the cultural strategy, the placemaking plan as well, and the destination management plan. Councillor Horton mentioned, asked if we could possibly have some of these strategies come to the committee. Was there any particular strategy that you would, you wanted it to come for us to have a deeper dive into, Councillor?
Well, it's not really. I'd like an overview of all of them, to be honest. But they seems to be that they're pinning everything on these strategies. And it would just it would be nice to see some meat on the bone, because we're not really seeing what it is that they're talking about. They're just giving us very, very high level snapshots of what's going on. Yet everything feeds back to all the comments feed back to these strategies. So that's why I would like to see it.
So is it particularly these three, Gavin? The cultural, the placemaking
plan, and the destination management plan.
And destination plan.
Yeah, the destination plan I think is quite important, because obviously I'm sure you would have picked up how many times they mentioned the transporter bridge, how many times they mentioned the boat. But we're not seeing how they're going to get these things off the ground, how they're going to drive the traffic to the information that's going to make people want to come to Newport as a destination city. It just seems a bit vague at the moment.
So, am I right in saying that strategies then go to Cabinet for approval? Don't all strategies go to Cabinet for approval?
They should get signed off first, go for the democratic process, yeah.
Yeah, so if it's a formal council strategy, the information should be in the public domain and it should go to Cabinet for approval.
Mm.
And then this action plan should underpin the strategy.
Mm.
That's essentially what you do, isn't it?
Yeah. Gavin just mentioned visitor numbers there. I think I'm right in remembering that when in 2015, when Friars Walk opened, I've got a feeling 6 million, they claim 6 million people came to the city. Of course, what we don't know is, whether they're going specifically for that, or we had a sort of background figure as well.
I mean, those figures are a bit high in the sky anyway. To be honest,
Don't forget, Kate. We've got a passport office in Newport, which does bring a lot of people here.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly through the last year, wasn't it? They were queuing out. There were tens and tens and tens of people every day outside there. Yeah.
So, is there an appetite from the committee to bring any of these strategies for a deep dive as part of the forward work programme that we're currently looking at for the remainder of the year? Because we can fit more meetings if we want to. It's whether some of these strategies. I mean, there's always, since I've been on this committee, been an appetite to look at the asset management strategy or plan, and Tracy mentioned that was sort of being developed at the moment. That's something I would like to see
I'd like to
come
see
to the committee.
Yeah, I'd like to see that list of the assets actually.
Yeah,
So we
well,
have
I think the whole strategy, she did say that's where the list of the assets will be in the strategy. I mean, you know, unless that is in the remit of another committee, which I don't think it is.
So that would fall into
I'm sure we've requested that before, Chair, in terms
We
of.
have, we have asked for the asset sort of report, but not actually the asset strategy or plan. So I'd like to see that form part of our forward work programme, depending on the timescales of when it's going to be.
Yeah, I was just saying, did we have a date on when they were going to complete that?
We didn't ask, did we?
We did say, I think that was autumn, I'm sure we said autumn. I missed. So
yeah, I think most of the plans were early next year, weren't they? Q1 or Q2 of next year, they were due to be
well, I
finished.
thought they kept saying November because he said about November and then he kept joking about the transporter bridge and stuff. So I thought it was kind of coming in November.
The same was November.
Yeah, and the others, I'm sure the asset strategy plan was about the same time.
Once we get clarification from the service first, and then.
Yeah, do you want to get some clarification then on the timescales of the assets?
This at a point in time, isn't it?
But if they're going to have it by the end of the year, then yeah.
Put it on program.
Yeah. Okay, see what Gavin pulled up to me wants a separate meeting on that strategy.
Or would the committee like to have like separate information reports on those three plans, and after viewing those information reports, if you do want to have a deeper dive, maybe we can ask them to come to the committee.
That's
the committee
Could you put some time frames around when they're going to get that information to us though, so they're not dragging their feet, please?
Yeah. So, what kind of timescales should we? I suppose.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, the trouble is, there was no. I didn't get a warm, fuzzy feeling that they were particularly far down the road with these plans. So I don't know. I don't know, but I don't. Obviously, if they say, well, it's going to be 6 months before we can give you anything, then it's a bit of a lame duck, isn't it?
Gavin, if we take out August because it's holidays, if we're going to give them till the end of September to come back with something.
Yeah.
Yeah, be kind to them.
Yeah.
Or sooner. If they may well have it ready. All I'm saying is I don't want to give them an open-ended opportunity.
No, I agree.
So yeah, totally agree. I mean, some of the answers that they gave you, Gavin, were a little bit sort of woolly. Yeah, I agree with you. There wasn't a sense that they were sort of nailed on the pulse in terms of what was happening with some of them. I think that's fair to say. So. Yeah.
Other comments I got from that was Councillor Horden's query about the benchmarking who the peer locations. Tracy mentioned it was Coventry, so I've taken this down wrong, but I think she mentioned the place manager was going to see what other cities that we've been looking at.
Yes.
They mentioned there was Coventry and Gloucester. They mentioned. Now I'm not saying they pulled those names out of the air. However, I would very, very happily play poker with either of them.
Yeah, well, let's let them provide the additional information to us, and then we can sort of challenge on it. I mean, I know we're a city, but we're also, quite a small city and in comparison to some towns as well. So whilst you compare us to some cities, you'd also compare us
to some towns. They've been cities for a lot longer than we have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Councillor Horden's comment about mentioning Newport being a tech city, but they're not currently offering the education for jobs which underpin anything, such as there's no hospitality training anywhere. This could be something that we could capitalise on.
Yeah.
Because it was me who went on about the tech stuff, but obviously Gavin is quite right. We need all those service industries, and the same thing applies, doesn't it? Or the popular thought is, if you train somebody in a place, then they stay in that place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They'll be happy to make their home.
What I'd like you all to think about, and this is one of the things I do with my guys, is if you think about why you don't go out in Newport of an evening, and think about the end point to be at the end of an evening, and work back from there. And then you think about somewhere like Cardiff or Bristol, and they tick so many boxes where reports much smaller. We don't, but if you think of it that way, you'll come up with a much clearer picture of where some of the areas we need to be working on are. I don't know if that came through. I lost the signal a bit there.
You go in your book all the time? Yeah.
And I've also got Tracy, the comment about the work skills group. Can we have the public contact details for this? So I'll get that from Tracy.
Yeah.
That's everything I've taken for regeneration. Was there anything further the committee would like me to add to that?
I did ask about the vacant properties. The posting was created for something that's targets been set. So we get result on that. We're paying something in the winter. We'll start seeing something else.
Sorry, thanks. Can you say again, vacant properties?
Yeah, it's on page 1.4. Is that they created a post for somebody looking into bringing back vacant properties, which are commercial and residential. The two successes, but whether there ought to be some performance indicators in place and I guess set on that. So we get
that's the budget.
Valid.
Yes, because I think that they're dipping into the budget that's being available for that. So there should be some indicators.
Well, so the other thing was the base marketing plan and the website, which I never knew existed. So
yeah,
Newport place. Never heard of it ever. You did say that, or they did say they'd circulate the address around to councillors. So yeah, a recommendation. I mean, if you Google Newport Gwent, which I did as we were sat here, that isn't on the first page of Google. It should be right at the top, shouldn't it?
Yeah, city of Newport.Wales.
Yeah, but if you Google, just Google the word Newport Gwent, that website doesn't exist in the whole of the first page. Right, who comes in there, you know, so they certainly need to be doing some SEO optimization on the search engines, for Christ's sake, to get it to somewhere where it kind of people land on it, you know. Yeah. Anybody else heard of it before today?
No.
Yeah, that says it.
I think you're absolutely right. It almost feels as if, although we're trying to push ourselves as a digital city, we seem to be digitally lacking.
Yeah,
don't disagree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was a bit of a shame when literally none of us knew it. Heard that website. You know, we're supposed to be ambassadors for the city and promoting things from several instances, aren't we?
So I got that for Regen. Thanks for that. For people policy and transformation, Councillor Rees on page 46.6, development of digital skills of citizens, employees and members. What was the take up and what was the demographic? And Tracy said she would get numbers and also provide an update for the mid-year reviews.
Yeah, she said I would roll that to the 6-month review because that's what she said at the end was you get more meaningful data. So we leave it on there, but just change it to we'll get an update to the 6-month review. Is that all right? Yeah.
Neil, back with the regen one, would it be possible or is it viable for us to have a breakdown of the businesses which are within the city centre?
Okay, so breakdown of
the business types that are within the city centre, and it might give some focus and clarity around some of the areas which they really should be looking at.
Yeah, sure, can certainly request that.
Thank you.
We made comment, Chair, that is pleased to see improvements in the figures for the check-ins.
Yeah.
On page 59, total number of social media followers, suggestion that would it be possible that we could utilise schools or sixth forms as part of their coursework to improve it? And Councillor Cleverly also suggested using youth councils as well.
So I think that recommendation was in relation to the website improvement on social media followers. Am I right?
They've got Mediterranean here, Bespoke here. Well, it's gone.
Recommendations using sixth forms and using the youth council were recommendations for review of the website as opposed to the social media.
We did also ask them to review the measures on the social media, see whether they're appropriate. They've seen breaches.
On the property,
So we were going to review the measures.
Thank you.
Is that right?
Yeah.
If you want to peel over after I get.
Thanks, Joe. And also, I've got clarification on the asset management plan.
Yeah, that's the one I just said now, so we may well, so we need to get a date for that, when it's likely to, and then can be included on the forward work programme. I mean, it was missing under probably.
I've got a sandwich.
We've got it on.
Yeah. And that's everything I got for people policy and transformation. Was there anything else the committee would like me to add to this?
We did some stuff on sickness, didn't we? What did we say on the sickness stuff? Sort of come back at the 6-month point with a review on the effectiveness of the changing policy and some benchmark data with other local authorities, I think, on the increase in sickness. Is that right? That sound about right to everyone?
Is the voter ID in people policy transformation?
No, well, that's the
next one.
But I did have a thought about this sort of voter ID stuff. You know, if there was a by-election, say one of us resigned, they'd have to do it straight away, wouldn't they? Yeah, So they need to get on it sort of quite quickly.
Because it's not unheard of that councillors dropped it.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I did sort of say resign rather than drop it. That's been diplomatic.
It's like there should be resignations. What there might be is caddies and people
Yeah, exactly.
you know, have the whip withdrawn.
Yeah.
Which in which case there wouldn't need to be a by-election.
Yeah.
Well, just for the fatalities.
Elections don't require voter ID.
Oh, there we are. Cool.
Oh, great. We can carry on. Scrap that.
For law regulation, when the participation strategy is mentioned, could we provide the links to members for the participation strategy? We'll get that out to the committee. We'll also check like the age of children as well. I've got nothing further for law and standards. I'm sorry, was there anything further the committee would like to recommend for this report?
Can we get more updates on the leisure centre and what's going to be inside it? Be a late blast for that?
I don't think it's.
I think it's a matter for us in terms of end of year reviews.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's all fully settled yet.
No, it hasn't gone for plan submission yet, so it's only an outline consent, isn't it? So
I think it's got planning, yeah, it's got some.
it's got outline, but no.
Yeah, but I don't think there's.
no
I think
matters.
it's probably going to be a question of how much the money stretches.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It'll come back to planning.
And when it,
shortly,
and when it
it'll
comes
run
from, because the money's coming from 4 different sources, or 4 or more different sources. Yeah.
Well, you backlog in the coroner's office, this is coming down to, we want to wait until the 6-month review, or do we want some figures on that? They've never put any numbers to the backlog.
You want to ask for some data on it?
Yeah.
You want to ask for some data on it?
Yeah. They're skirting around it. But I think it's coming down while shows are coming down.
Yeah.
And then for finance, for the budget monitoring, budget manager submissions percentage of monthly forecasts submitted by budget managers. We asked them if they can specify the service areas who are below targeting and reasoning to why they're underperforming. So Myron will come back to us with service by service detail. Councillor Thomas, you mentioned that you suggested that we make a recommendation for the audit.
Yeah.
The auditors.
Yeah.
What would you like me to put for that?
Well, I think we need to increase the resources within that department. You know, this is something that could save us money. I think it needs to, that needs to be recognised.
I was sort of wondering whether I, as the chair of this committee, ought to write to the chair of the audit committee and outline the concerns that we had.
Yeah.
And suggest that, you know, maybe.
I think this is something the audit committee are fully aware of.
I'm sure they are, but
I think we should be, I think we should be,
Yeah.
I'm on the audit committee. And I can guarantee we will be discussing this at length on Thursday.
Yeah, I've no doubt about that, but I think as a committee, we should just sort of make clear, I'll do it by email rather than
Definitely
better or whatever, but just make clear that we as members are concerned about it, and then they can,
Yes, well, we can add weight to whatever.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. It's good practice.
Yeah, any weight that can be added to it. We were quite upset as a committee that they were losing one person.
So they gone from 6.5 people down to 1.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Out of the budget.
The question comes for me is if, several of them left for more money, could we not sort of make a match?
It's not good enough for Marion to be saying, oh, we're spending all this money on bringing consultants in. Well, if they're spending enough money, just bite the bullet and take on some extra staff.
Well, I think the challenge is they can't recruit. It's not the end of the support.
Well, yeah, they're able to find somebody, aren't they? They're able to buy in somebody.
Well, I think they have to pay more money. That's what I would have done. If you were looking at losing that many people, surely you'd have come and said, how much they're going to.
Some decision should have been escalated up to the top.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's going to be anything that's got consultancy or agency or anything else in the title, it's going to be double the price anyway. Because it's subject to value.
Councillor Tice, you suggested that perhaps we do an all members seminar on audit.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So that people understand. Are you all right with that, Gavin?
Yeah.
Have some training on audit?
Yeah, I at the end of the day, Kate, it'll show the other members just how important it is.
Yeah, and particularly this internal audit, which I haven't got a clue about this because there had been no training on this. I didn't know what it was until I was actually, put on audit committee.
Yeah, I didn't know because I used to work for the council years ago. I didn't
know anything about it. So
no, I was in an office with our internal auditors in Tata, so I know what they do, and I've been audited myself. But if somebody's never been exposed to it, then they wouldn't really understand and know the sort of the importance that they carry.
Absolutely.
And everyone's going to go off and be the audit committee.
They spot things. They keep you out of prison. They can keep people out of prison.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, they put people in.
Absolutely. Yeah, they put them in there. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I put something down here. This local participation survey. This is a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because certainly, when people ring me as their councillor, they'll be moaning about something, and I would not put. I mean, if I were to ask them, do you feel that you participated in the decision-making process of the council by moaning to me? I'd probably get sworn at.
Yeah.
And I'd get told, well, you never do anything. Well, I don't think that.
Anyway, it is.
So I think that 30%, I think it's most unlikely to be a figure. In fact, I'll be quite honest. I know they have to measure something else. They have to present some sort of parties of evidence that they're trying to engage with citizens. But I think to be confident that 30% of the citizens of Newport think that they are actively involved in setting the priorities and the function of the council.
I don't think Leanne said she was confident in the 30%.
Well, I don't think it could be in there. I don't think it's a long thing to measure. Measure the number of engagement activities you did, or the number of times that you put it out, or where you referenced it on the website, but don't say 30% of people in Newport are confident that they've engaged in the influence of council.
Yeah, I think it's derived from a couple of sources, and hopefully because we've got a measure going forward. As we develop, so we can pick up on the 6-monthly plan really, and how how we're moving forward in terms of getting a cogent, measurable bit of data that we're comfortable is telling us a story, I guess.
And I don't know if you want the information, but Mario mentioned the whole times council tax lines are high. Suggested that we could get the peak times information. Would the committee like that information, or?
Yes.
Yeah, because we're pushing. we really need people.
I think it would be useful to ask.
Yes.
I mean, I do think the target's wrong at 25 minutes when we're performing 20 and 22 last year. So it should have at least been trying to improve on last year. So, you know,
Otherwise, I would say that's our main way that people actually, you know, respond, you know, or a main way, an important way, a significant way of people responding or getting information, then we should actually be prioritising people higher than that.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to resources, and if you've got less resources to deliver the same service, the target's gonna.
But this is where the last resource and
that's why
It's hard. It's got to be. You've got to be looking to improve on yourself. You can't say, "We're just going to get stress everybody." You know?
It's a system where somebody wants some information about their council tax day. It might be a quicker way of sorting out their query, and you wouldn't be having to.
I'm tempted to ask people proposals for improving the situation. So I think that's fair. I
understand. This is another thing on helping people possibly can't sort online and have to phone in.
Did we have any further thoughts on the apprenticeship skills thing? And I was a bit confused on that. Are we actually offering support to private businesses to enable them to recruit apprenticeship?
No, it's
right. Okay, because I understood that latterly, but actually, I personally think that's something we could be doing as well to support the training of young people within Newport.
I think it's just again, it's back to what we don't say.
It'll be a business issue, and there is a big drive from Welsh Government in terms of apprenticeships. They've got Qualifications Wales as well, which is so
posting those things.
I don't know if we're signposting them. We probably could be better at that, perhaps, but I'm not sure it's our role to do it personally in terms of resource. That's my gut feeling.
Possibly, but we all that's because they want the process themselves.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to. I mean, this isn't at this stage, but when they bring in that 7 days on death certificates, I would be interested to know, you know, how that's going. I think you said they bring it in next April, don't they?
Yeah, I did ask for the data, didn't I, actually, on the number of days, the average number of days to register a death following the issue of the medical examiner's report, because that's the bit we can influence. And she said it was 100%, didn't she? But confirmed.
So yes, we already mentioned it. 106 funding, we've already
Just the last part, Chair's scrutiny advisory reports, and the next 2 meetings coming up. Monday, the 11th of September at 4 o'clock is the replacement of local development plan preferred strategy. It'll be quite a big report, and Tracy Brooks will be coming in for that.
Could we ensure we get that in reasonable time beforehand? Because I suspect that is going to be a big report.
Yeah, we normally publish the agenda a week before the meeting, and that's always been the case. I don't know if we would be able to get it any sooner than that.
We want to start a little bit sooner then. You think you might run on like tonight? Rather than starting it.
And instead,
3 to 4.
Just check to see if we can make it a little bit earlier. 3 o'clock.
Well, we've been here.
That's just 4 hours. Yeah, that's it. It's an open question.
It's too long. It is too long. Yeah.
I would prefer to start a bit earlier personally, but you know, it's up to everybody. You know, the people have got different commitments. So
even 2 or 3 o'clock,
yeah. I always feel sorry for these guys that have to kind of sit here and wait for us, to be honest, you know. So that's sort of part of my motive for it. So I would rather start earlier. So, and again, we're not keeping a lot of officers here, but people have different commitments. So we can stick to the vote if you want. I mean, I would rather start about 2 o'clock. And try and finish so you can get home and have tea at a reasonable level as well, you know. So
if that's with the committee, I can certainly check with Tracy, because she would be the head of services report. It relates to see if she's able to open it. Certainly with Facebook.
Is there any sort of strong objections to?
No, not at all. All that happening.
Anybody online got strong objections to starting earlier?
Oh, I'm fine with starting earlier.
Alex, you're on, yeah, we'll class.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's 2 o'clock.
And also the next meeting after that will be Monday, 27th of November. That'll be the mid-year review, so we'll have environment, public protection, housing and communities and infrastructure. On the action plan, just to give you some updates on that, we've sent the comments recommendation from the previous meeting, just chasing those up from the service areas, and also just the action sheet for the 17th of April. Everything has been actioned and sent later to the committee, so that's everything on my end, Chair.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Yeah, and all the action plans are on there. All the action points are on there from last time.
Yeah.
And obviously we haven't had the minutes for the last meeting yet, so we can agree them on this one next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Right, thanks everybody for your patience and diligence.
Thank you, Chair.